Chapter 10:26. Bai Xiaowen looked at Mara's wisdom chain wand with a little heartache. Seeing the light and shadow that appeared from the wand, suspected to be Mara, the god of wisdom, Bai Xiaowen just curled his lips. The spirit realm's rules are really good at mystifying things. Well, it can't be ruled out that it's the projection of a real god. Bai Xiaowen only dared to say this in his heart. It was not a good thing to offend the spirit realm's rules or the projection of a god just because of a slip of the tongue. The surrounding people knelt down one after another. There were many gods on the Black Tide continent, but the 7 projections that appeared at this time were undoubtedly the 7 gods with the greatest influence and the most believers on the Black Tide continent. Most of the allied soldiers present were believers of one of these 7 gods. Even if the believers of other minor gods did not belong to any of these 7 gods, in the polytheistic Black Tide plane, there was no harm in kneeling to the great gods of other faiths. Bai Xiaowen continued to watch coldly from the sidelines. The spirit realm's rules had spent so much effort to create such a powerful light and shadow effect, so it was certainly not for nothing. Sure enough, the 7 holy artifacts flew up in a circle and stopped above Amitabha's corpse. The light gathered and then projected down. Amitabha's corpse slowly floated in the air and flew toward the light of the holy artifacts. In the process of flying, it rapidly shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bai Xiaowen had a very strange feeling in his heart. It seemed that Amitabha's corpse was not shrinking, but a visual effect caused by the spatial distance between it and everyone else. He tried to use mind vision, and sure enough, it confirmed his guess. Spatial teleportation? The spirit realm's rules are indeed to recover Amitabha's remains. Bai Xiaowen was a little unhappy. They had fought so hard to reach the central skull cavity and killed the Great Lord, but they did not lose a single strand of hair. Originally, they wanted to get some benefits from Amitabha's remains, but they were still intercepted by the spirit realm's rules halfway. Considering that the spirit realm's rules had recovered the Grim Reaper's hand bone in the last scavenger mission, it seemed normal that they would recover the remains of a god's descendant this time. That wasn't the end of it. The divine shadow on the 2-handed greatsword holy weapon seemed to have turned to Ahan. Ahan also hurriedly bowed and nodded repeatedly, as if he was receiving the teachings of a god. After receiving the teachings of the gods, Ahan walked towards Bai Xiaowen. Dior, the god of justice, wants us to return the remnants of Amitabha's relics. These things should not be left in this world. Bai Xiaowen pursed his lips. He had also received a notification from the spirit realm's laws. Divine Descendant Relic detected, Eye of Amitabha. Do you want to hand it over? Note, if you return the Eye of Amotawa, you will receive additional rewards. Bai Xiaowen had already taken Ahan's Amitabha's scale for safekeeping, so Ahan came to ask him for it. In the eyes of the spirit world's laws, Bai Xiaowen only had the Eye of Amitabha as his spoils of war. As for the Amitabha scale, it was something that Ahan had temporarily handed over to him for safekeeping. It could not be taken out of the spirit world and did not belong to Bai Xiaowen personally. Therefore, the spirit world's laws only gave the notification that Bai Xiaowen had to hand over the eye and did not mention anything about the scale. You win, Bai Xiaowen sighed. The Eye of Amitabha had been in his hands for a long time, but he had not been able to figure it out. However, this relic of a god's descendant must have a unique value. If he had a choice, he would not hand it over. But now, he had to hand it over. There were 2 reasons. First, Bai Xiaowen did not want to offend the spirit world's laws, or rather, the big boss behind the scenes who controlled the spirit world's laws. Second, Bai Xiaowen's foundation in the Black Tide plane was that he was a prophet favored by the gods. This was his capital, but also his limitation. If Bai Xiaowen openly defied the gods' orders, he would lose a lot, including some of his follow-up plans in the Black Tide plane. Fine, I'll just hand it over. Bai Xiaowen took out the Eye of Amitabha and the Scale of Amitabha and threw them into the light circle formed by the 7 holy artifacts. Amitabha's corpse disappeared, and the 7 holy artifacts also disappeared into the light circle under the guidance of the god's projection. When the light dissipated, there were no more holy artifacts or Amitabha's corpse on the huge battlefield. There was only a huge crater left on the ground by Amitava's huge corpse. Although the holy artifacts have left, our power has not weakened, Queen Camelot suddenly said. Yes, this is the grace of the gods, Ahan said. Bai Xiaowen looked at the other 6 lords. Their lord auras and psionic particle fluctuations had not weakened. They were still at the lord level, but they did not have the bonus of the holy artifacts. Bai Xiaowen himself was still in the special state of Mara's gift, but Bai Xiaowen was not interested. Obviously, this lord card verification was only effective in the Black Tide plane. When Bai Xiaowen returned, it would definitely revert to its original state. Moreover, before his return, there were no overly harsh combat missions. The strength of the lord level was a little redundant. It would lower the combat rating and affect Bai Xiaowen's ability to reap benefits in the future. What's the extra reward? The Eye of Amitava is my own thing. The rules of the spiritual realm shouldn't be too greedy, Bai Xiaowen muttered in his heart. As if hearing Bai Xiaowen's thoughts, the rules of the spiritual realm quickly sent a notification. You have received a special reward item, Blood of Ancient Hydra. Blood of Ancient Hydra, special item. The essence purified from the corpse of Amitava, a descendant of the gods, contains powerful energy. This item is exclusive and cannot be traded. Bai Xiaowen chose to accept it, and a bottle of dark red blood appeared in his inventory. This thing. Although there's a description, it's as good as not saying anything. How do I use it? Bai Xiaowen was a little puzzled. Why was the reward item given by the rules of the spiritual realm a third-rate product? However, the moment he obtained the dark red blood, Bai Xiaowen felt another item in his storage space vibrate. It seemed to be resonating with the essence of the ancient Hydra's bloodline. Bai Xiaowen was all too familiar with this feeling of resonance. Once, Absalon's blood essence stone, broken, resonated with the soul essence. Bai Xiaowen glanced at it. So it's this thing. Wait a minute. The item that resonated was the prize that Bai Xiaowen got from opening the treasure chest, the broken compass. Bai Xiaowen instinctively wanted to fuse the 2 items, but he thought carefully and resisted the temptation for the time being. The main thing was that there was a description on the broken compass. It asked Bai Xiaowen to find a professional blacksmith to understand the details. He would wait until he met a professional blacksmith to see how to use these 2 items. Chapter 1027. After retrieving Amitava's remains and the 2 relics, the spiritual realm's laws, or rather, the projections of the 7 gods, secretly gave Bai Xiaowen a bottle of ancient Hydra blood as a reward. They also took out the 2 earth cores from Amitava's head and returned them to the Black Tide plane. Looking at everyone's eager eyes, Bai Xiaowen sighed. Next, he still had to do the work of reshaping the land. But with the earth core, the rest was simple. He just needed to find the destroyed ley line pillars, implant the earth core into the broken foundation, and protect the pillars so that they could grow again. Bai Xiaowen would carry out the implantation of the earth core according to the records on the Guardian Sex tablet. As for the follow-up care, it would naturally be closely guarded by the elite soldiers of the disaster-stricken countries. There was no need to waste Bai Xiaowen's time. Ahan and the other leaders of the allied forces made a decision on the spot. They would use the Spectre ship that Bai Xiaowen seized to wipe out the remaining bases of the Nagas. Bai Xiaowen also made a special inquiry. The criteria for a grand unification was that the last deep-sea Naga base that took shape was destroyed. In other words, as long as the Naga base was destroyed, a small number of Nagas that escaped would not be affected. Since the Diviner Crown had not been retracted, Bai Xiaowen still possessed the overpowered peeping skill, mind vision. With such an infinitely extended scanning ability, it was very easy to find the Naga's bases. In the following time, the 3 female heroes of the White Phoenix team entered a semi-leisure state. They piloted the Spectre ship to wipe out the remaining Naga's bases, accompanied by the lords. It was so relaxed and happy that it was like a vacation. The 2 male team members, Bai Xiaowen and Han Su, were more miserable. Han Su was working hard to learn how to forge, while Bai Xiaowen had to implant the earth core, activate mind vision to search for the remaining bases of the Nagas, and mark them on the map of Qiaorui. Bai Xiaowen took some time to open the treasure chest of the Naga. This was the worst dark gold treasure chest in history. Caglila had been ganged up on by 7 sacred weapon overlords, and her battle rating was only E, which meant that she only had one chance to draw the dark gold treasure chest. Moreover, there was a 2/3 chance that she would not draw. Li Shi, who was widely recognized as the most popular player in the White Phoenix team, was still unable to change fate and draw something out. Looking at the blank card, he wanted to cry but had no tears. However, there was still a special item at the bottom of the dark gold treasure chest. It was not included in the loot list. It was a slightly broken ring with a gem the size of a longan embedded in it. However, the interior of the gem was filled with cracks. It was obviously damaged. Tattered ring, special item. This broken ring contains the aura of the sea. Please find a professional in jewelry processing for more information. This description seemed familiar. Bai Xiaowen quickly recalled that it was almost exactly the same as the description of the broken compass on the self-harming Lord Shuren. More importantly, the broken ring also resonated with the blood of the ancient 9-headed serpent. With Bai Xiaowen's current terrifying reputation in the Dark Tide Plain, it was easy for him to find a master forger and a master jeweler. His influence was on the same level as the heads of the 7 major countries. In this special period, his words were even more effective. It was not Bai Xiaowen who went to find them. Instead, he sent out a notice to summon the master forger and the master jeweler. The master forger was Antoine Greybeard of the Dwarf Kingdom, who was also Han Su's teacher. The master jeweler was Edith Starchaser of the Elf Kingdom. Bai Xiaowen had never seen this professional before. However, she was also a top master jeweler in the Dark Tide Plain. In a spacious cabin used to entertain guests on the Ghost King's flagship. Both of you have seen them, right? I hope that these 2 items can be repaired and their potential can be unearthed. Bai Xiaowen received the 2 masters. This was not an exaggeration, and the 2 masters went straight to the point and put forward their requests. Antoine Greybeard held the compass in his hand and looked at it over and over. He looked up and said, "Well, this thing is really good, but I can only restore its appearance." Lady Edith also nodded and said, "Lady Prophet, the 2 items you gave should be equipment that was damaged in battle. For us, it is not difficult to restore the items. The difficult part is to stimulate their potential and restore them to their original function. Even for the 2 masters, you can't do it. There is a lack of a special material." Antoine pushed his monocle up. "I can't tell what material it is yet, but it must not be a simple ore herb. It must be something of a higher grade." Bai Xiaowen sighed in his heart. It seemed that he could not keep the blood of the ancient Hydra. "Then, please take a look at this bottle of blood." The 2 masters did not react at first, but when they looked at the bottle of dark red blood at a close distance, they were shocked. "Oh my God!" Edith exclaimed, her slender fingers covering her mouth with the etiquette of a lady. Antoine Greybeard was not so reserved. "The god of smithing. How is this a bottle of blood? It's a mass of moving magma. It's a surging spring. It's more like a liquid crystal of energy. Master Antoine, have you noticed that the 2 relics that Lord Prophet took out have a natural compatibility with this bottle of blood?" Edith said after calming down. "Well, of course. I feel it. This blood is the special material needed to restore these 2 items," Antoine Greybeard asserted. "Then, please use this bottle of blood as the material to restore these 2 items. I wonder if there is enough blood." Bai Xiaowen was a little worried. This bottle of blood did not look like much. If it was not enough and could only restore 1 item, it would be a little troublesome. After leaving the Black Tide Plain, where could he find such an obedient professional master? However, Antoine's words put Bai Xiaowen's mind at ease. "Don't worry, Prophet. With the energy contained in this bottle of blood, just 1 drop will be enough to restore this compass. Diluting it in water will do," the old dwarf said confidently. Edith expressed the same opinion. Bai Xiaowen breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he did not rashly use the ancient Hydra's blood. It seemed that the professional had a good eye. This way, he could save more than half a bottle of the ancient Hydra's blood. How long will it take to complete? Bai Xiaowen asked another question he was concerned about. Within 3 days. Within 5 days. The two gave different answers. Edith, who said 5 days, said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, Prophet. The gem on this ring is basically broken. I need to carve an equally exquisite gem with the same attributes to replace it. It will take some time." It's okay. Thank you, Edith. I will pay for it. Bai Xiaowen said. The two masters refused in unison. What a joke. Let the prophet pay? Their compatriots in the Elven Kingdom and the Dwarf Kingdom would despise them. After that, the two masters each took a drop of the ancient Hydra's blood and carefully left. Chapter 1028. 7 days later, in the deep sea. Looking at the Naga base that had been wiped out, Bai Xiaowen had a lot of emotions in his heart. Just now, he received a prompt message from the spiritual realm. The deep sea Naga base has been completely uprooted, and the leaders of the deep sea Naga above the Lord level have all been eliminated. The Abyss faction has been defeated. The Black Tide Plane will officially enter the Grand Unification after you and your team members return. Note, the Grand Unification message is confidential, secret level 1, confidentiality level 4 for the natives of the spiritual realm. You have obtained the qualifications to be promoted to an evolver. The moment he received the prompt, Bai Xiaowen's experience bar skyrocketed like a geyser, and soon it was raised to level 8 100%. He could level up to level 9 at any time. Bai Xiaowen inquired, I can be promoted to an evolver now. The spiritual realm rule replied, the promotion process cannot be completed in the awakened plane. You need to return to the spiritual realm to perform the corresponding operation. Bai Xiaowen asked, I'm only level 8 now. If I choose to become an evolver, there will be additional rewards, right? The spiritual realm rule said, if you choose to become an evolver and your level is below level 10, the awaken will grow according to the attributes of the current template, and you will receive basic attribute points based on the multiplier of your level. In addition, based on your contribution in the Grand Unification process, you will also receive attribute points equivalent to the supplementary points. The spiritual realm rule was very boring, but Bai Xiaowen quickly understood. Using himself as an example, he was currently level 8. If he chose to become an evolver directly, he would grow according to his template and receive 4 points of strength, 4 points of agility, 4 points of constitution, and 10 points of spirit. A total of 22 points would be used as supplements. In addition, Bai Xiaowen would also receive the same 22 points of attribute points as rewards. It seemed that the rewards for becoming an evolver in advance were ordinary and could only be regarded as average. There were no additional rewards for so-called geniuses. Bai Xiaowen understood why the spiritual realm rule made such a rule. Was the Grand Unification difficult? For the strong, it was not difficult. And some of the weak could even fish in troubled waters and complete the Grand Unification with the strong. If there were additional rewards for genius awakened ones, such as the lower the level of the evolver, the greater the reward, then there would be a loophole. Think about it. If an intermediate awakened hunter teamed up with Bai Xiaowen to complete the unification, it would be equivalent to becoming an evolutionary 4 or 5 levels ahead of time. According to the genius clause, the lower the level, the more generous the rewards. Those who took advantage of the situation would also be able to obtain astonishing additional rewards. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with the rules of the spirit realm. Xiaowen. Li Shiyi walked over. I received a notification about the Grand Unification. Bai Xiaowen nodded and asked, have you checked the rewards for becoming an evolver in advance? I did. It said that I can replenish my attribute points and get the same amount of attribute points as a reward, Li Shiyi said. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. It seemed that the threshold for the reward of attribute points was not high. Li Shi's contribution in the grand unification process was far less than Bai Xiaowen's, but he could also get the reward of attribute points. Later, Qiao Rui and Cecilia also came over. After they received the notification about the grand unification, they wanted to come over and let Bai Xiaowen make the decision. Unsurprisingly, the two of them could also get the reward of attribute points. Their contribution in the grand unification process was not much lower than Li Shi's. However, Bai Xiaowen estimated that Han Su would not get the additional reward of attribute points. After all, his contribution to the grand unification process was relatively small. Let's not talk about whether we can become an evolver in advance for the time being. After all, it's time to return, Bai Xiaowen said. Now, let's focus on finishing the work in the Black Tide Bitwall. Well, let's go up the Spectre ship and prepare to return. Our destination is Silver Beach, the Dwarf Kingdom. As the order was passed, the sailors on the Spectre ship cheered. Sailing and fighting underwater in the dark for 7 consecutive days was definitely a mental torture. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen occasionally let the fleet float up for air. Otherwise, everyone would have developed a phobia of the deep sea. The Continental Alliance held a grand welcome party for the triumphant return of the Spectre fleet. This was also a celebration party to celebrate the destruction of the Abyss faction. Most of the high-level officials of the Continental Alliance and the members of the First Continental Congress were present. As the speaker, Queen Camelot gave a speech and reviewed the difficult process of the war. A month ago, we were still at a loss and helpless in the face of the enemies in the deep sea. The return of the Prophet changed all of this. He is the lighthouse of wisdom, illuminating our path forward. He allowed us to find the 7 sacred artifacts and hold the secret key to defeating the Great Lord. He is a successful diplomat, helping the scattered continent to unite as a whole. He is a commander with a rich strategy. His strategic plans have repeatedly fooled the enemy, causing the enemy to walk step by step towards destruction. At this point, Queen Camelot's voice rose a lot. He is also a healer, allowing our land to regain vitality. Although the tide has not completely subsided, our surveyors have already discovered that the trend of the water level dropping is becoming more and more obvious. Everyone, look at the sky above us. This is the first time we have had consecutive days of clear skies. We already know that His Excellency the Prophet, Dior C. Kale Bloom, is not a human of the Dark Tide continent. He came from another time and space. However, this does not affect his contributions to the Dark Tide continent. He is our eternal friend. Queen Camelot's speech caused waves of applause. Bai Xiaowen was a little embarrassed by the praise. Her Majesty the Queen really knew how to do things. In fact, it was precisely because Bai Xiaowen was not a person of the Dark Tide continent and would leave sooner or later that Queen Camelot and the rulers of the other countries dared to praise Bai Xiaowen generously. This was not a real threat to them and would not shake their rule. When Bai Xiaowen left, the name of Dior C. Kale Bloom would only be a lost legend for the world to remember and revere. His Excellency the Prophet, do you have anything to say? Queen Camelot smiled and gave up her seat. Bai Xiaowen coughed. My mission has basically been completed. There is only one task left. At this point, Bai Xiaowen became a little more serious. The Great Lord is a guest from the Abyss, an enemy of God. God does not allow the magical technology he brought to exist in this world. Therefore, these ghost ships and magic crystal cannons must be destroyed. No organization or individual is allowed to keep them. The people of the Dark Tide Plain basically had faith. With Bai Xiaowen's current status, bringing up the flag of God would definitely be successful. Chapter 1029. Perhaps some mages of the Camello Kingdom would be interested in the magic crystal cannons, but with the supervision of the Camello Queen, nothing would go wrong. Moreover, Bai Xiaowen had already prepared for this. He used the excuse of cleaning up the Naga base as an excuse to put all the magic crystal cannons under his control. It would only take him a few words to destroy them. The reason why he added this on such an occasion was to prevent anyone from being lucky enough to find a magic crystal cannon that was left intact, although the probability was very low. The Camello Queen immediately expressed her determination to listen to the oracle and listed the magic crystal cannons as prohibited items. This was actually beneficial to the stability of the nobles' rule. Why were crossbows banned in the Middle Ages of the Earth? It was because a peasant could easily kill a fully armored noble knight who had undergone years of military training with a crossbow. This touched on the concept of hierarchy in the feudal society. Black technology like the magic crystal cannons had a similar effect in the plane of the Awakened Ones. It could allow an ordinary mage apprentice to threaten a leader or even a lord. The nobles ruled the country with military force. Of course, they didn't want such things to shake the foundation of their rule. The welcome party dispersed. Bai Xiaowen's worries were unfounded. There were no magic crystal cannons left outside. After destroying all the ghost ships in the magic crystal cannons, he received a prompt message from the spirit realm. Mission Objective 1, destroy all the magic crystal cannons in the Black Tide Plain. Kill the Naga magic craftsman Lucian, Glop, and Asmonti, completed. Mission Objective 2, destroy the consciousness connector of the god's descendant creature, Amitabha, completed. S-level special hero side mission, Scavenger, completed. Do you want to submit? Bai Xiaowen thought for a while and asked for the opinions of his teammates. Qiao Rui asked, do you want to level up to level 9 first? The scavenger mission will give a lot of experience. If you don't level up to level 9, the experience reward will be wasted. Because of the great unification, everyone's experience bar was full. If they leveled up to level 9, they wouldn't waste the rich experience reward of the scavenger mission. Li Shi said, don't level up to level 9? If we become evolvers in advance, we can get an extra level of attribute reward. Han Su was quite envious. Sure enough, he didn't get an extra reward for advancing in advance. Qiao Rui asked, Captain, are you planning to evolve in advance this time? I'm not sure yet. I have inquired about post-humans, but I have not received any response from the spiritual realm. I guess I will only know when I return to the interface, Bai Xiaowen said. According to my calculations, an S-class hero scavenger mission will give at most 15 to 20% of the experience points. Of course, Han Su will give a higher percentage. But for a team like ours that has the strength to unify, experience is nothing. Everyone's EXP bar was maxed out at level 8 after a single unification. Indeed, EXP was not that valuable. Understood. Qiao Rui nodded. He was not in a hurry to level up. The team reached a consensus, and Bai Xiaowen chose to submit the mission. You've received mission reward, Wishing Tree Fruit X1. Fruit of the Wishing Tree, a magical fruit that can fulfill one, limited, wish after use. Bai Xiaowen looked at the floating fruit in his palm. The fruit was wrapped in a ball of gentle light, and its specific appearance and color could not be seen clearly. The spiritual realm's rule prompted, you've received the wishing tree fruit, unspecified. Please specify the range of the fruit's wish. Bai Xiaowen asked, what's the range? With a swoosh, a list appeared in front of Bai Xiaowen. Purple fruit, Gardener's Wish, Gardener's Wish, immediately receive 15 points of free attribute points after use. Silver fruit, Magician's Wish, Magician's Wish, specify a psionic item that the user has seen before and obtain a copy of it. Note, some special psionic items are excluded. Red fruit, Warrior's Wish, Warrior's Wish, immediately apply a battle buff to yourself and all team members within a 100-meter radius. All attributes increase by 15 points. Melee attacks receive a cleave effect, ranged attacks receive a piercing effect, and magic attacks receive a resistance ignore effect. Lasts until you leave combat state. Green fruit, Healer's Wish, Healer's Wish, immediately restore all HP for yourself and all team members within a 100-meter radius. For the next 20 seconds, recover 5% of your maximum HP every second. Black fruit, Cursemancer's Wish, Cursemancer's Wish, specify a spiritual realm creature and cause it to die, no matter where the target is. Note, the death curse requires a certain amount of time to take effect. The greater the difference in strength between the target creature and the user, the longer the time required to take effect. The maximum effect cannot exceed the Lord level, and it must be a creature from the Awakens plane. Blue fruit, Mercenary's Wish. Mercenary's Wish, specify a mission and complete it immediately to obtain a perfect evaluation. The mission difficulty cannot exceed S-rank hero difficulty. Note, Mercenary's Wish cannot be used for scavenger missions. Golden fruit, Wealth's Wish. Wealth's Wish, immediately receive 1 million psionic points. Spiritual Realms Rule. Warning, information about the wishing tree fruit is confidential information. Confidential level is 1. If you mention it to others who do not know, you will suffer a punishment of 1 level. There were a total of 7 colors, and each color represented a direction. After digesting these notifications, Bai Xiaowen shook his head. It seems a little different from what I imagined. His teammates also saw these notifications. I thought there were no restrictions. Now, every wish has a specified effect, Li Shi muttered. I also want a transformer. In any case, every wish is very powerful, Qiao Rui said. Take the last Golden Wealth's Wish for example. This fruit is worth at least 1 million psionic points. It should be worthy of the difficulty of the S-rank hero scavenger mission. Yes, and directly exchanging psionic points is the worst choice. If this wishing tree fruit is auctioned, and the buyers know the actual effect of the wishing tree fruit, it might be able to sell for more than 2 to 3 million. Bai Xiaowen said, of the 7 wishes, the Wealth's Wish is the first to be excluded. In addition, the Warrior's Wish and the Healer's Wish are all one-time items. Although the effect is very powerful, it's too wasteful. Don't consider it. After a pause, Bai Xiaowen said, the Conjurer's Wish is to curse and kill a spirit world creature. It seems very powerful, but it's actually quite ordinary. If it's a cursed overlord, it might not die until our time in the spirit world runs out. After all, there's a restriction that the higher the target's template, the longer the time it takes to take effect. If it's a cursed overlord, it's too wasteful. Qiao Rui said, with the configuration of our team, even if the captain loses the overlord's buff, it's enough to kill the overlord. There's no need for the Conjurer's Wish. Then, for the remaining 3 wishes, the Gardener's Wish is 15 points of free attribute points. It's equivalent to an extra level and a half of attribute points. It's more practical. The Conjurer's Wish is a bit similar to the Book of Duplication I got before, but it has a wider range. It doesn't have to be a psionic item that I have, as long as I've seen it. That's very powerful. What's the most powerful item we've seen? Li Shi asked. His teammates thought for a while. Then, they all looked at Bai Xiaowen. Hansu coughed. I think the most powerful item is the captain's exclusive equipment. Yeah, gold items are nothing compared to the Black Soul Stone, Li Shi said. Don't think too much. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. The Conjurer's Wish has indicated that it can't duplicate some special psionic items. Exclusive equipment definitely can't be duplicated. Besides, even if it's duplicated, how can you wear it when it's bound to you? I can't wear 2 Black Soul Stone accessories at the same time. I think even the 7 sacred artifacts that we've seen before can't be duplicated. The upper limit of this wish is probably a gold item. Suddenly, Qiao Rui made a suggestion. Did you guys notice the blue mercenary's wish? Everyone looked at the shared information bar and searched for it. The mercenary's wish allows us to complete a mission immediately? Li Shi muttered. It's not very useful, right? With the strength of our team, what mission can't we complete? That's true, but this wishing tree fruit may not be for our own use. Qiao Rui laughed. Look, the range of missions that can be completed directly is S-class hero difficulty. What if it's a quasi-awakened? When they carry out awakening missions, can they directly choose S-class missions to do? Then, can they directly create a hero class? Chapter 1030. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone looked at Bai Xiaowen. Li Shi clapped his hands and said, why didn't I think of that? If that's the case, this wishing tree fruit is the best for Xiao Jun. She can be a hero. Xiao Rui smiled and said, "That's right. If we can get a psionic treasure that can affect the class change, we can make Little June a powerful hero class with exclusive equipment." Bai Xiaowen frowned slightly and shook his head. "For Xiao Jun's class change, I've already prepared a dark gold equipment for her. It's the dark gold cloak that Shi dropped from the Shadowblade Sword Saint's treasure chest. This cloak can increase her initial strength by at least 3 times. In addition, I'll let her sign a contract with the Wolf Valley. A level 8 elite wolf's descendant appears in the world where the class change mission is. Its strength is basically overwhelming. It's just that it's limited by Xiaojun's stamina consumption and can't be maintained for long. With such a unique condition, if Xiaojun still can't rely on her own strength to change her class, it can only mean that her vision is too small. There's not much point in forcefully increasing her class template." The descendant of the Wolf Valley's descendant had a special level growth. The level of the Wrathclaw followed by Xiaowen's level. The other descendant of the Wolf Valley would slowly increase over time. Frequent battles would also accelerate the leveling process. It had nothing to do with the summoner's level. In other words, a level 1 Xiaojun could summon a level 8 or level 9 Steel Fang or Rockback. However, the difference in strength between the two was huge. The descendant of the Wolf Valley would have no combat power. It could only be maintained for a short time and could only be used as a trump card. It couldn't be used as a regular combat power. That was why the Dark Gold Cloak was needed. During the Awakening mission, the Dark Gold Cloak could be used as a regular combat power. Bai Xiaowen had already told the team about the Dark Gold Cloak Shadowblade Sword Saint's battle flag when they met up earlier. No one had any objections to Bai Xiaowen's allocation. Xiao Rui insisted, "Anyway, we don't need this wishing tree's fruit for the time being. Why don't we give it to Xiaojun as a guarantee? If she can't pass the most difficult awakening mission, after failing once or twice, she can directly use the wishing tree's fruit and make a mercenary's wish the 3rd time she enters the spiritual realm." Li Shi nodded. "That's the best way." Bai Xiaowen nodded. After receiving the fruit of the wishing tree, the White Phoenix team received another piece of good news. The equipment that Bai Xiaowen had entrusted to the 2 masters, Antoine Greybeard and Edith Starchaser, had been repaired. The 2 masters had been waiting for Bai Xiaowen's return for several days. Bai Xiaowen met the 2 masters in the command center and saw the 2 pieces of equipment in their hands. These 2 pieces of equipment had a mesmerizing azure color, like the color of the sea. The aura of a tidal wave assaulted his face. First of all, there was the broken compass that had been repaired. Deep Sea King's Compass, bound after equipping, quality, set equipment, green, equipment position, accessory, equipment requirement, none, attribute, physique +3, additional skill, guidance, immediately dispel the effect of control skills on the wearer. For the next 10 seconds, the duration of control effects of the same type will be reduced by 50%. The priority of this skill is 3. Durability, 40/40, description, Deep Sea King, glory forever. Next was the equipment that had been repaired by the broken ring. Deep Sea King's magnificent ring, bound after equipping, quality, set equipment, green, equipment position, finger, equipment requirement, none, attribute, physique +3, additional skill, shadow of the sea serpent, passive. When the wearer is moving, the shadow of a sea serpent will appear on his body. Evasion rate against single physical attacks or spells is increased by 30%. Durability, 40/40, description, Deep Sea King, glory forever. That's amazing. There seems to be some kind of resonance between these 2 pieces of equipment. They should have been part of the set equipment before. It's a pity that there should be 3 pieces of the set equipment. We're still missing 1 piece, so we can't see the full set effect, Antoine Greybeard said. Bai Xiaowen suppressed his excitement and said with a smile, "To be honest, I already have the 3rd piece of the set equipment." He took out the Deep Sea King's pendant. It was dropped when he killed the first lord of the Deep Sea, Vazadas. Now it seemed that the 3 lords of the Naga camp had all dropped a piece of the Deep Sea King's set equipment. Heavens, I can feel the close connection between the 3 pieces of equipment. They're a hole, Antoine Greybeard said. Unfortunately, this pendant seems to be slightly damaged. Although it doesn't affect its function, it slightly affects its appearance. If you don't mind, I'll help you polish it, Madame Edith said. Of course, Bai Xiaowen did not mind. In fact, he was more than happy to do so. Madame Edith took out a jeweler's toolbox and carefully polished the pendant. The process took a very short time. After it was done, the Deep Sea King's pendant did not change any attributes or skills. Only its durability was restored to the maximum value of 40 points. This is great. We can finally see the amazing effect of these 3 pieces of the set equipment. Antoine Greybeard could not wait. It was not just the 2 masters. The members of the White Phoenix battle team in the hall were also looking forward to the effect of the 3 pieces of the Deep Sea King set equipment. Bai Xiaowen silently read the set attributes and set it to display. Deep Sea King's Glory, 3/3, set attribute, 2 pieces passive. Wearer receives 10 free attribute points, treated as basic attributes. Wearer has 1 chance to redistribute these 10 free attribute points every natural day. In a water battle environment, wearer receives double the allocated attribute increase. Set attribute, 3 pieces Deep Sea Charge, active skill. Summons a specter ship to crash into a target area, causing damage and stun to all enemies in the area. Cooldown, 8 hours. In a water battle environment, Deep Sea Charge's damage and stun duration are doubled. Such a powerful set equipment. Master Antoine and Master Edith were a little shocked by the power of the set equipment. However, their main job was not to fight, so they did not feel any envy. They were just amazed by the power of the set equipment. After satisfying their curiosity, they took their leave. Before leaving, Bai Xiaowen even asked Master Antoine to stay. He wanted to get some benefits from the old dwarf. In his storage space, he still had cold iron ore, ancient dragon bones, and many other materials. Chapter 1031. However, Master Antoine was not interested in these materials and did not agree to continue forging equipment for Bai Xiaowen. Instead, he recommended his disciple, Han Su, to Bai Xiaowen. A true master blacksmith needs a lot of precious materials to hone his skills. These materials are not bad, but they are not enough to move Antoine. Let's leave them to Montan Henry. He will become an excellent blacksmith. Bai Xiaowen was at his wit's end. He also knew that although having a high reputation was useful, it did not mean that he could manipulate these masters to seek benefits for himself. Besides, what Master Antoine said made sense. Since Han Su had taken on the blacksmith sub-profession, he would need materials to practice in the future. After the 2 masters left, only the members of the White Phoenix team were left in the hall. They finally gathered together and happily looked at the 3 pieces of the green equipment set. The power of the King of the Deep set was undeniable. Compared to Fatty's Venomfang Priest equipment set, the King of the Deep set only took up a necklace, an accessory slot, and a ring slot. These were all insignificant positions. The Venomfang Priest equipment set, on the other hand, took up the 2 most important positions, the weapon and the upper body. Why was it important to occupy these positions? That was because, apart from the set's special effects, the individual pieces of a green equipment set were generally not very competitive. It would be good if they could add 5 points of attributes equivalent to gold-grade equipment. Adding skills was out of the question. Weapons focused on special effects, while upper armor focused on quality and additional skills. If these 2 important positions were forcefully equipped, it would often lower the awakened strength. In comparison, the accessories, necklace, and ring slots occupied by the King of the Deep set were much better. In addition, looking at the quality of the individual pieces, the 3-piece King of the Deep set was a top-grade equipment with both attributes and additional skills. Although the pendant did not have any additional skills, the 6 points of physique increased exceeded that of ordinary gold-grade equipment. The compass's guidance skill was a skill to dispel crowd control. It did not conflict with food or items. The importance of an additional crowd control skill was needless to say. The Shadow of the Sea Serpent passive skill that came with the Hua Ring was a fairly good defensive skill. It could reduce a considerable amount of single-target damage. Finally, and also the most important comparison, was the set's special effects. The 10 adjustable free attribute points were still considered basic attributes. It was very flexible and practical. When the basic attributes did not meet the requirements of the equipment, it could be supplemented. Deep Sea Charge was a powerful AoE control skill. It was extremely rare to see a skill with both damage and control characteristics. It was definitely a top-tier skill. Moreover, these two set effects were doubled in water combat, which was the icing on the cake. Perhaps some people would think that the Poison Fang set equipment had given Fatty a greater boost than the King of the Deep Seas set equipment. However, there was one thing to note. The Poison Fang set equipment had a very narrow range of application. If someone who did not deal any poison damage wore it, it would basically be a useless set. For Fatty, who was constantly dealing poison damage, this was a godly equipment. Relatively speaking, the King of the Deep Sea set equipment was very versatile. Practically anyone could equip it. Moreover, after equipping it, one's combat power would improve significantly. Any Awakened wouldn't complain about having too many Constitution attribute points. The more free attribute points and AoE control skills, the better. It was obvious that the King of the Deep Sea set was stronger than the Venom Fang Priest set. This was because the King of the Deep Sea set had come from 3 lords. Although the King of the Deep Sea set had a very low combat rating, it was still a lord set. It could be considered a top-tier set equipment in the Awakened plane. The only equipment that could be stronger than it was a 4-piece or 5-piece equipment set. Didn't you guys notice something? The King of the Deep Sea set has no equipment requirements. Qiao Rui's eyes lit up again. Bai Xiaowen tilted his head and said, "Sister Qiao, don't tell me you're going to give these 3 pieces to Xiao Jun?" Qiao Rui smiled but said nothing. "Wow, I'm so envious of Xiao Jun. She's practically a winner in life," Li Shi said. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, "I know you guys have good intentions, but don't joke around. The King of the Deep Sea set is a piece of equipment that will greatly improve our team. We can't give it to Xiao Jun." After a pause, Bai Xiaowen said firmly, "More importantly, she hasn't awakened yet. Giving Xiao Jun so many pieces of top-tier equipment is not a good thing. She won't cherish things that are too easy to obtain. Moreover, it will only encourage her laziness. From the perspective of the spiritual world's laws, no effort, no gain. Only the growth of strength obtained through hard work truly belongs to her. Right now, we don't even know what class Xiao Jun will take in the future." Bai Xiaowen glanced at his teammates and said, "Let's distribute it among the team. I'm very short on accessories and rings, so I won't join in the fun. My accessories, the Fiendish Fire Jade Pendant and the Blood Monarch's Coat of Arms, are very useful. They're not compatible with these 3 pieces of equipment," Li Shi said. Qiao Rui said, "I'm a support. My survivability is strong enough. I don't want it either." She looked at Cecilia with an inquisitive look. Cecilia shook her head. "I'm a long-range physical damage dealer. What do I need so much constitution for? Can't you guys protect me?" Most of Cecilia's current equipment was standard gold equipment, which she had brought with her. It was indeed necessary to replace them. However, it wasn't suitable to replace those standard gold equipment that increased strength and dexterity with the King of the Deep Sea set that increased constitution. Instead, it would reduce her damage output. For example, it was like a game of League of Legends in the Christian era. How would an ADC with a good damage output environment be equipped when there were front-row teammates to tank and support teammates to protect them? Of course, the damage output would be maximized. There wouldn't be any meat. Okay, it seems that everyone has the same idea as me. Then let's give it to Han Su, Bai Xiaowen said. Han Su was stunned. "For me?" Bai Xiaowen said with a smile, "Yes, for you." A lot of things surged in Han Su's heart in an instant. However, in the end, he didn't say anything. He just nodded silently. There was a heavy feeling in his heart. With such teammates, what more could he ask for? This kind of harmonious atmosphere in the team was what Hansu dreamed of. After the equipment set was distributed to Hansu, there was only one thing left for the White Phoenix team in the Black Tide plane: to exchange merit points. This time, the entire White Phoenix team had accumulated more than 60,000 merit points. It should be noted that many of the things that Bai Xiaowen did, such as exploring the Dusty Temple, healing the earth, and so on, were not missions. They would not reward him with merit points. They would only increase his reputation in the Black Tide plane. If all of Bai Xiaowen's actions were converted into merit points, his contribution to the Black Tide plane as a prophet would be incalculable. He would not be able to compensate for it even if he pawned the quartermaster's underwear. Bai Xiaowen had already seen the quartermaster, Felix, before. There were not many new specialties in the Black Tide plane. Although it was a unified plane, the richness of the goods was far less than that of the Sword Song plane. However, because the coalition was an alliance of the Pan-continent, the supply of goods itself was still very abundant. Bai Xiaowen directly exchanged for 12 teleportation spells, which were town return scrolls. 60,000 merit points were spent just like that. Bai Xiaowen said that he would let Xiaojun train more and not give her too generous conditions. However, he still worried about Xiaojun's safety. These 12 teleportation spells could at least ensure that Xiaojun's path as an awakened would not be in danger. If Xiaojun was very capable and did not need these teleportation spells, he could also sell them and exchange them for other needed psionic items. Town return scrolls were hard currency that absolutely held value. 8. Chapter 1032. After knowing that the prophet was returning, many high-ranking people in the Black Tide realm came to see her off. Even if some people were unhappy with the prophet, they did not dare to show it. Ahan, Queen Camelot, and the others who were close to Bai Xiaowen and had gone through life and death together were reluctant to part with her. Among the other lords, the female elf Dorothea Goldleaf also felt that it was a pity. Needless to say, she liked Bai Xiaowen very much. Her feelings for him had developed to the level of being attracted to him. Now, this budding feeling could only come to an end. Due to their longevity, elves were more introverted in their feelings. The main reason was that Bai Xiaowen did not have the energy to flirt with this female elf and enter her emotional world. Of course, Bai Xiaowen would not go to the extent of flirting with every female he saw. Xiaowen, do you think the Black Tide realm will be reactivated immediately after we return? Li Shi asked. It should be so. The president and Uncle Old Monster said that after the realm is unified, it will enter the cycle of reincarnation. All the spiriters will be regenerated according to the background of the world and return to level 1. Bai Xiaowen said. Sigh, I think it's a pity. We have met many friends here. Li Shi was a little regretful. Bai Xiaowen nodded and said, yes, Queen Camelot and Ahan are the top lords of the Black Tide realm. They are very close to me. We are also familiar with the other lords. If the Black Tide realm is not reincarnated, we will have a unique advantage when we are matched here later. Qiao Rui laughed. What are you thinking about? The rules of the spirit realm won't give you such a good thing. Li Shi's slender fingers touched his chin. Well, that lord called Dorothea is also very close to you. She even took the initiative to teach Sister Saa. Cecilia was confused. She taught me because of Dior? Li Shi asked in return, Sister Saa, don't you know? Bai Xiaowen hurriedly waved his hands. It wasn't me, I didn't, don't talk nonsense. By the way, did Cecilia learn anything from the Lord's guidance? Changing the topic, Cecilia nodded. Yes, my rapid shooting skill has mutated. It's now called split shot. I even redrew the skill's special effect. As she spoke, she put the skill on display. Splitting arrow, mutated skill. Cecilia's long-range shooting speed increased by 150% for the next 5 seconds, and each shot automatically split into 7 arrows. LV4 special effect, penetrate, each split arrow can deal damage to all enemies in a straight line. For every enemy it penetrates, the arrow's damage will be reduced by 20%. LV7 Special Effect, Suppressive Shot. The enemy hit by the split arrow must pass the Constitution check. Otherwise, they will be in a state of shock and their movement speed will be reduced by 40% for 3 seconds. This splitting arrow skill was indeed a mutated skill. It was much stronger than the previous rapid shooting. Just the number of split arrows had doubled, not to mention the penetrate special effect. Combined with the passive effect of the blood rose poison, it was definitely a powerful physical AoE skill. Of course, Cecilia's acquisition of this mutated skill was not as easy as Bai Xiaowen's. It was completed just by looking at Guan Yu's pretentious act. She had followed Dorothea throughout the entire battle, and Dorothea had consciously taught her by word and example. Coupled with the subsequent diligent practice, she had achieved this. With Bai Xiaowen's good relationship with the Lords, he could certainly ask the Lords to teach the members of the White Phoenix battle team and explore new mutated skills. In fact, he had done so. In the 7 days of battle to wipe out the Snake People's base, several Lords had tried to teach the members of the White Phoenix battle team because of Bai Xiaowen's face, but in the end, the results were 0. On the one hand, it was not so easy to learn mutated skills. On the other hand, the Awakened could not rely on their status and prestige to ask for unlimited amounts. In particular, the teaching of this kind of spiritual realm figure generally had to be actively taught to be useful. Just like Master Antoine Greybeard, who saw Han Su's talent in forging, took the initiative to teach Han Su forging skills and opened up a blacksmith sub-profession. Li Shi did not have such luck. Even if Master Antoine was forced by Bai Xiaowen to accept Li Shi as his disciple, he could not open up a sub-profession. It would only damage his relationship with Master Antoine. Was there a way to let the spiritual realm figure take the initiative to teach? There was also a way, and that was equivalent exchange. The Awakened had to pay something. After getting the approval of the spiritual realm's rules, it would be easier to learn the skills taught by the spiritual realm figure. In short, it was impossible to get a free ride. After bidding farewell to the people in the Black Tide Plain, the 5 members of the White Phoenix battle team climbed a mountain and took a last look at this place. The sky was beginning to clear, the tide was gradually receding, the dark land, white light flashed, and the White Phoenix battle team chose to return. In the void, scenes flashed past like a movie. However, in the end, the scene was fixed on Bai Xiaowen destroying the last base of the Nagas. During this period, the scenes related to the Great Lord, as well as the battle in the Great Lord's blood vessels and brain chambers, did not appear. It was as if an invisible big hand had erased them. Bai Xiaowen was used to this. The scavenger mission would not be included in the completion evaluation. He already knew this when he was in the Ramses Plain. However, Bai Xiaowen's performance in the Black Tide Plain accounted for a large proportion of the scavenger mission. After all, it was an S-rank hero side quest. Without the completion evaluation of the scavenger mission, Bai Xiaowen's performance this time would be dragged down by a lot. But no matter how much it dragged down, Bai Xiaowen's performance was still outstanding. The status of the prophet was there, and it was definitely beyond the limit of what a normal Awakened could do. Hey, look, the completion screen did not disappear. It continues to evolve. Li Shi's voice sounded. The 5 of them looked over. The view of the originally fixed image quickly zoomed out, forming a bird's eye view of the Black Tide Plain. The image became 3-dimensional, and finally turned into the shape of a globe. It was an illusory sphere that rotated slightly. On the surface of the sphere, the images of the countries of the Black Tide continent were very clear. Obviously, this was a miniature model of the Black Tide Plain. It seems that the plane is going to be unified. Will the laws of the spiritual realm show us the process of the plane's reincarnation? Bai Xiaowen was a little excited. This kind of experience was very precious. He could directly face the secrets in the depths of the spiritual realm. The rotation of the sphere of the Black Tide Plain stopped. Beams of white light with extremely strong energy fluctuations were emitted from the inside of the sphere. The light was so bright that it was impossible to look directly at it. Qiao Rui, Li Shi, and the others closed their eyes. Bai Xiaowen also closed his eyes, but his left eye forced open. A faint red light flickered as he stared at the scene of the plane's evolution. Chapter 1033. The notifications of the spiritual realm's rules kept ringing. Due to unknown reasons, data is in disorder. 353 psionic energy points will be deducted. Due to unknown reasons, data is in disorder. 421 psionic energy points will be deducted. Almost every second, the deduction notifications popped up. Bai Xiaowen agreed to all of them. A few hundred psionic energy points were nothing to him. The Eye of Evolution had been flashing with a faint red light, as if it was protecting Bai Xiaowen's peeping. In Bai Xiaowen's vision, the miniature model of the black tide plane, in the infinite white light, flew out a more illusory spherical shadow. If an analogy had to be made, it was like a person's soul had flown out of the body. The illusory spherical shadow seemed to have taken away a large amount of white light. It quickly compressed and finally turned into a very small, very pure light spot, whistling into the distance until it reached the depths of the starry sky that Bai Xiaowen could not see. The sphere of the black tide plane that was left in place lost most of its white light and began to vibrate frequently. At this time, Bai Xiaowen no longer needed to have his psionic energy points deducted. The vision of the others had also returned to normal, and they could look directly at the sphere of the plane. With a bang, the sphere of the black tide plane disintegrated. The main part of the sphere still maintained its adhesion. Some small fragments flew out and suspended in the air, like beautiful stardust as beautiful as diamonds. The disintegrated sphere began to be reconstructed, constantly absorbing psionic particles from the void. Everyone could feel that when the disintegrated sphere absorbed the psionic particles, it was like a black hole. But the strange thing was that this suction only targeted the dissipated psionic particles, and had no effect on the awakened ones present. Under the cover of the soft light, the disintegrated sphere was successfully reconstructed. It was still the spherical model of the black tide plane. The familiar coastline, the familiar continent, the mountains, the plateaus, the canyons. However, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. The continent was still the same continent, but the people were no longer the same group of people. Or rather, the people were still the same group of people, but they had nothing to do with the 5 members of the White Phoenix team. The reincarnation reconstruction is completed. Li Shi was a little disappointed. Yes, it's done. Bai Xiaowen was a little uncertain. Before the collapse, the shadow that flew out of the sphere of the black tide bit wall finally condensed into a pure light spot. What was that? Queen Camelot, Anne, Dorothea. Did all of them really disappear and reconstruct themselves? What was the difference between the spirit realm and Earth? What was the difference between the people of the spirit realm, the people of Earth, and the awakened ones? Although Bai Xiaowen had peeked through the Eye of Evolution and saw some vague secrets, the secrets of the spiritual realm were still shrouded in fog. The notification from the spirit realm's laws interrupted Bai Xiaowen's thoughts. You've already obtained the qualifications to evolve and advance. Do you wish to advance? Bai Xiaowen calmed himself down and temporarily put aside his distracting thoughts. He said, "Show me the professions that I can advance." Spiritual Realm's rules prompt: if you choose to become an evolver, you will receive the Evolver class tome, Salian's Secrets. After studying Salian's Secrets and completing the evolution, you will have a base priority of 7 points. You will receive a unique energy slot, Magic Power. Your divination skills will be improved in power, comprehension speed, and cultivation progress will be accelerated. Important note: the class tome is very important. Please make your decision carefully. Bai Xiaowen asked, why isn't there a name for the class advancement? Also, what does a base priority of 7 points mean for an evolver? The spiritual realm's laws ignored Bai Xiaowen. I think it has to be at least a hero-level template. It can't be lower. Li Shi raised his hand and said, Xiaowen's base priority is now 4 points. After increasing it by 3 points, it's the same as the demigods. The awakened bit wall and the evolver bit wall are definitely calculated differently. Qiao Rui waved his hand and said, "We've all obtained the qualifications to advance. Everyone, take a look and summarize the information about the class advancement." The class tome that Li Shui could receive was called Lang Shiluo's Handbook. After completing the advancement, he would have a base priority of 6 points and a special energy slot, battle energy. There were also hints that the power and comprehension speed of combat skills would be improved. The templates that Qiao Rui and Cecilia could receive were even lower, only 5 points. In addition, Qiao Rui's special energy slot was the same as Bai Xiaowen's, which was magic power. Cecilia's was the same as Li Shui's, which was battle energy. The corresponding specialization of the two was also different. Qiao Rui's specialization corresponded to control skills, and Cecilia's specialization corresponded to shooting skills. Everyone took a last look at Han Su's prompt information, and then, they all looked at him sympathetically. Han Su's template priority was 4 points, which corresponded to defensive skills. Bai Xiaowen said, "I think I understand. In the evolutionary plane, the basic priority of the same template is 2 points higher than in the awakened plane. In other words, my base priority of 7 points is 5 points in the awakened plane, which is equivalent to the Lord template. Shi's is 4 points, which is equivalent to the hero template." At this point, Bai Xiaowen exhaled. It seemed that although the scavenger mission was not included in the evaluation, Bai Xiaowen's other contributions were enough to support his advancement to the Lord class among the evolvers. Why are Sister Qiao and Sister Sai's ranks so low? They're only equivalent to the Elite Evolver template? Li Shui wondered. That should be normal. Qiao Rui thought for a while and said bitterly, "After all, we have been acting separately from Captain for a while. Although we have also participated in several battles with the ghost ship, our combat contribution was average, and the battles were all small battles that had nothing to do with us. Shui, you probably received the Hero Evolver template when you were with the Captain and participated in a major event that affected the progress of the Grand Unification." "Yes, the Dusty Temple. I went there with Xiaowen," Li Shui said. Everyone tacitly agreed not to discuss Han Su. However, Han Su did not look depressed. He was quite open-minded. Being able to become an evolver was the dream of many awakened heroes. After all, an evolver with a standard template was stronger than an awakened hero. "Captain, now that we have more or less understood the information about the evolver class change, what do you think?" Qiao Rui asked. Bai Xiaowen thought about it and first inquired about a question from the Spirit Realm's rules. "If I don't choose to become an evolver this time, can I keep the promotion opportunity? If I complete the Grand Unification mission in the other planes in the future, I can choose the most suitable one from the many promotion opportunities and become an evolver." Chapter 1034. The rules of the spiritual realm quickly responded, "Yes. You can keep up to 3 types of class classics. More than 3 types will need to be deleted. Special tip 1, you can only choose class classics and promotion in the spiritual realm's matching interface. Please be prepared in advance. Special tip 2, the class classics you choose will correspond to your assigned territory. Based on your performance in the Grand Unification process, you will receive this information." "The territory assigned to me? What territory?" Bai Xiaowen was slightly surprised. Every Lord-level evolver, after completing the class promotion, will receive a large spatial fragment as their territory. Bai Xiaowen looked at the specks of stardust that were shattered when the sphere of the Black Tide plane collapsed. Presumably, these stardust were the spatial fragments that collapsed during the Black Tide plane's reconstruction. They looked as small as specks of dust, but in fact, they had internal space. Only Lord-level evolvers have it. "Are there hero-level evolvers?" Bai Xiaowen asked. "No. Special tip 2 means that since I chose Salian's Secret Codex as my class classics, I have to choose the spatial fragments that collapse from the Black Tide plane as my territory? I can't choose the spatial fragments of other planes?" "Yes. What's the use of a territory?" Bai Xiaowen asked again, but the rules of the spiritual realm did not give any further answer. Bai Xiaowen thought for a long time and looked at his teammates. Let's put the matter of the territory aside first. I'll summarize the information about the class promotion of Evolvers. The world of Evolvers seems to be different from what we imagined. The positioning of Evolvers seems to be more refined. For example, the class classics that we study all have corresponding professional skills. For example, the Saurian secrets that I obtained corresponds to the skills of prophecy. Then, I will certainly be able to learn the spells of prophecy faster and stronger. The type of classics we get is closely related to our performance in the Grand Unification process. During the Grand Unification process, my most outstanding performance was to make multiple prophecies. I played the role of a prophet, so I got a prophetic class classics. In addition, there are also 2 special energy slots, combat aura and magic power. I don't know their effects yet, but if I think about it carefully, they are most likely used to increase the power of the corresponding skills. This is because the true chi special skills we encountered in the Sword Song plane can actually be seen as a special energy slot. Its effect is to amplify one's strength. The Dark Tide plane that we have just conquered has a traditional European Western fantasy background. Combat aura and mana are the standard energy for warriors and mages in a Western fantasy background. So, we can only have these 2 energy slots when we are unified in this plane. Then let's promote it. What if we were in a world with the background of the ancient Huaxia? Will I be able to obtain spiritual power, magical power, or even true inner force? Qiao Rui raised his hand and said, I think it's very possible. The Sword Song realm can be seen as a low-level realm, and in the world of Evolvers, there must be a high-level realm or even a Xianxia realm, right? It's not strange that there's a higher level of energy than true Qi. Xiaowen, are you going to give up this opportunity to advance? Li Shi understood Bai Xiaowen's meaning. It's not considered giving up. After all, it's not necessarily so easy to get a Lord-level Evolver's profession template book. But I've just inquired and learned that profession classics can be kept, so there's no hurry. Bai Xiaowen said, to be honest, I'm not particularly interested in this Salian secret codex. Prophecy skills seem very powerful, but they're only more meaningful in intelligence gathering and strategic decision-making. These things can be made up for by analyzing. Most of the time, we still have to rely on our strength to fight head-on. There aren't so many shortcuts. I still want a profession classic that's more helpful to our strength and can be used to fight head-on. For example, this time, Bai Xiaowen's prophecy ability had been used to the extreme, but in the final battle, he still had to fight head-on against the Great Lord. If it weren't for the fact that the spiritual realm's rules were also against the Great Lord and had arranged for the 7 holy artifacts and the holy convergence, Bai Xiaowen probably wouldn't have been able to do anything to the Great Lord. Qiao Rui said, according to the information I learned from my family, it seems that the professions in the ancient Huaxia realm are very powerful. But correspondingly, it's more difficult to advance to a high-level Evolver's profession template in the ancient Huaxia realm. It's okay. After this great unification, our team's overall strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Although I lost the temporary Lord-level bonus, whether it's the Black Soul Stone increasing to 7 or the Wolf Valley Awakening skill, they've all improved greatly. Shui also got the Invincible/Awakening skill, Cecilia got the Mutation skill, Old Han got the 3-piece set. In addition, we also got a lot of excellent equipment and items. With our current strength, it's not impossible to challenge the great unification of the ancient Huaxia realm. At this point, Bai Xiaowen tapped his right fist on his left palm and said, from now on, our exploration of the spiritual realm will focus on the ancient Huaxia realm. Of course, we won't go to the spiritual realm in the near future. Everyone, try to level up your skills and specialties as much as possible. After all, you can already reach level 9. You can't fall behind in terms of technical strength. Qiao Rui gained the least from this great unification exploration. She didn't upgrade her equipment much, and she didn't gain many skills or items. She only gained 2 levels of experience. However, Qiao Rui wasn't dissatisfied, because in the previous realm, she had gained the most improvement. Her special skill, Jade Forging Formula Internal Strength was a cheat-like ability that couldn't be changed even with dark gold equipment. Moreover, from the information about evolvers obtained during this great unification, evolvers had to cultivate special energy slots. Xiao Rui, who had Jade Forging Formula Internal Strength, was one step ahead of the other awakened to come into contact with the mechanism of this special energy slot. If she could gain special energy related to internal strength during the evolver stage, her advancement would definitely be faster than the average awakened. This was a hidden benefit. After that, the 5 members of the White Phoenix team began to enhance their newly acquired equipment. As for non-critical equipment, they could stop after enhancing it to +4. Only weapons, upper armor, and certain equipment with strategic value were considered to be enhanced to higher levels. After a round of enhancements, the +4 special effects everyone obtained were basically in line with the norm. Among them, the highlight was the Dire Wolf Ripper that Bai Xiaowen had enhanced for Keats. The +4 special effect actually changed the passive effect of the additional skill, Rupturing Wound Strike, making the original 15% chance of triggering an additional attack become 35%. Coupled with Keats' high agility and high attack speed, the enhancement was needless to say. Under the unanimous encouragement of his teammates, Bai Xiaowen simply used a 4-star enhancement card to enhance Keats' pair of gloves to +7. The silver light was so dazzling that people couldn't look straight at it. The +7 special effect also changed the description of the Rupturing Wound Strike. Not only did the triggering of an additional attack become 50%, even the active effect of armor reduction was changed from the original 20% to 40%. Of course, the +7 special effect also increased the attack power of the Dire Wolf Ripper gloves by a large margin. Cecilia's Abyss Chaser battle suit, as an upper armor for an important part, was also enhanced to +7 by spending a 4-star enhancement card. The enhancement was mainly for the 21% damage reduction brought about by the +7 gold upper armor. In the end, the +4 special effect of the Abyss Chaser battle suit was average, but the +7 special effect blinded everyone's eyes. Insight into weakness, passive. During the duration of the hunting moment, you will see the enemy's weakness. Successfully hitting the weakness will cause your attack to be a guaranteed critical hit, and cause 300% critical hit damage, increased from 200%. This special effect meant that Cecilia's attacks could more easily deal a critical hit to the enemy's body, especially against those elite-level enemies. Unfortunately, the insight into weakness effect only appeared when Cecilia activated the hunting moment skill that came with her equipment. However, the hunting moment skill itself was a crazy skill. It lasted for 30 seconds, and every time an elite-level enemy was killed, it would be extended by 2 seconds. If the battle went smoothly, and she continuously killed elite-level enemies, she could even refill the hunting moment indefinitely. It would not be a problem for her to continue for the entire battle. Other equipment, such as Bai Xiaowen's Gorgon Ring, Li Shi's Python Cloak, Cecilia's Snakeskin Cloak, Han Su's Tyrannical Wrist Guard, Waist Wrapping Anchor, and King of the Deep Sea 3-piece set, were all upgraded by +4. There was no need to go into detail about the non-eye-catching special effect. In addition, Bai Xiaowen specially enhanced the Shadowblade Dominator battle flag, upgrading it to +4. It also gained a special effect, Contempt, which reduced all damage from the back by 30%. This special effect was not bad, but for a dark gold equipment, it was obviously a little shabby. In addition, it was not a precious upper armor, so Bai Xiaowen did not intend to enhance it to +7. Although he had a 5-star enhancement card and a few 4-star cards, resources should not be wasted like this. After doing all this and repairing the durability of the equipment, the White Phoenix team chose to leave the settlement interface. In a flash of white light, the 5 of them disappeared from this galaxy one by one. Chapter 1035. Jinghai Base City, Gymnasium. There was a match today, but not many people came to watch. It was a Division II tournament that did not attract much attention, not to mention the absence of the host team. Some of the spectators who had come chose to leave the arena when the competition bell rang and the White Phoenix team had yet to appear. Commentators Smile and Alter were also helpless. The match time has exceeded 15 minutes, and the White Phoenix team is absent, so the opponent, the Renha team, automatically wins. Let us congratulate the Renha team for winning 3 points without bloodshed. The restless voices in the audience grew louder and louder. What's going on? I bought this ticket for nothing. Refund. The sound of refunds kept ringing. The two commentators were experienced and were not nervous about such a situation. Besides, the organizers of the Division II tournament had already prepared countermeasures. Friends, please calm down. Before the match, the officials had already considered the problem of the White Phoenix team not being able to participate, so they specially invited the students of CUAA Jinghai University and Jinling University to organize an exhibition match. Let us wait for a while. Students of Jinling University and Jinghai University, please enter. While the spectators were waiting, they could not afford an awkward silence. The two commentators started with the White Phoenix team that the spectators were most concerned about. Smile said, Alter, do you know which team is the biggest dark horse in this tournament? This opening was a bit stiff, but the female commentator Alter still tried her best to continue. The biggest dark horse in this Division II tournament is undoubtedly the newly formed White Phoenix team. This team has always been tied with the former Division I team, the Silver Frost team, at the top of the standings. Smile said, yes, we were originally looking forward to the confrontation between the White Phoenix team and the Silver Frost team. Excluding the extreme situation of the two teams being tied, one team was bound to take the lead and sit firmly in first place. But in the match 2 days ago, the absence of the White Phoenix team made this exciting confrontation regrettable. Alter said helplessly, there's nothing we can do about it. Compared to not being able to participate in the competition, I'm actually more worried about the safety of the White Phoenix team. The commentator smiled and emphasized, according to the information reported by the Super Gods to the Association, we understand that the White Phoenix team's exploration of the spiritual realm this time will last for 13 days and 8 hours. Under normal circumstances, the White Phoenix team should have returned long ago. Alter, there is another situation that some of the audience may not be aware of, and that is the extension of the exploration time of the spirit realm. If the Awakened performed extremely well in the first stage of the exploration of the spirit realm, they would have a chance to trigger the second stage of the main storyline mission. Then, their exploration time in the spirit realm would be doubled. According to our understanding, the captain of the White Phoenix team, Bai Xiaowen, has already triggered the record of the second stage of the main mission once before. To trigger the second stage of the main quest, other than strength, there is also luck. To be honest, the probability is relatively small. Even if they triggered the second stage of the main storyline, the White Phoenix team could only stay in the spiritual realm for 26 days and 16 hours. However, they have already been in the spirit realm for more than a month. Alter, to be precise, 33 days. Yes, exceeding the duration of the second stage of the main storyline is a very dangerous signal. From the perspective of Jinghai Base City, I really don't want anything to happen to this young team. Otherwise, it will be a great loss to Jinghai City and even the entire Huaxia Awakened world. Yixiao's expression was heavy. Alter said, however, the president of the Super Gods, Mr. Li Beihai, once said in an interview that he and the captain of the White Phoenix team were bound with a tool called the Warning Stone. If Captain Bai Xiaowen dies, the Warning Stone will shatter. However, until yesterday, the Warning Stone in Mr. Li Beihai's hands has been intact. After a pause, Alter said, is there a possibility that the White Phoenix team is still alive and is still exploring the spirit realm? Then, the only way is to trigger the third stage of the main storyline mission. To be honest, this possibility is less than 0.1%. It is too remote. It is only a theoretical possibility. Alter, but how do you explain the problem with the Warning Stone? There is another possibility. Captain Bai Xiaowen is not dead, but he has lost his identity as an Awakened and can't return to Earth. In this way, he can only exist in the spirit realm as a spirit realm character. This will not trigger the shattering of the Warning Stone. After a pause, Yi Xiao continued, if an awakened is hit by some special skills of some spirit realm creatures, or if their mind is modified, they will lose the ability to return to Earth. Alter's expression changed slightly and said, no way. The probability is too low. Although this situation is rare, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And compared to the probability of triggering the second and third stages of the main storyline mission, I think this is more likely. This is probably more terrifying than death, Alter sighed. Let's pray for the 5 genius players of the White Phoenix team. I hope they can be safe and sound. The members of the Jinling University and Jinghai University teams had entered the venue. The 2 commentators changed the topic and began to introduce the members of the 2 teams. The Jinghai University team is a team that has just won the glory and was crowned king. Last year, under the leadership of Captain Bai Xiaowen, they won the CUAA championship with a perfect record. But this year, with the departure of the captain and 2 main players, the Jinghai University team has undergone a major change. Let's wait and see if they can defend the glory of the king. In a secluded corner of the auditorium, a beauty wearing black stockings, high heels, and big sunglasses snorted softly, stood up, and turned to leave the venue. Beep beep. The door of a fiery red Rafa sports car in the parking lot rose gracefully like the wings of a bird. Just as the beauty in sunglasses stepped into the parking lot, she saw the figure of a young man in front of her beloved car. Yuding. The young man showed a flattering smile. The beauty in sunglasses, Zhao Yuding, took off her sunglasses, and a trace of impatience appeared on her pretty face. Lu Fei! What are you doing here? I'm waiting for you, Lu Fei hurriedly said, but he couldn't suppress the joy on his face. You know, right? Bai Xiaowen, that kid, is trapped in the spiritual realm and hasn't come back. Hey, the heavens finally have eyes. Back then, he and that Li Shi relied on the school's favoritism to ostracize us and even squeezed me out of the school team. Why didn't they expect this day to come? This is such a good thing, the 2 of us should have a drink together to celebrate. Chapter 1036. Zhao Yuding frowned, and her face was gloomy. A cold aura spread, and the smile on Lu Fei's face slowly froze into an embarrassed smile. Lu Fei, were you expelled from the elite martial arts guild? Lu Fei was startled, and his smile became much more forced. I remember I said that you are not allowed to appear in front of me again in the future. Zhao Yuding said coldly, otherwise, you know what the consequences will be. Now it seems that you are ready to bear the consequences. Lu Fei panicked instantly. Yuding, don't misunderstand. I didn't misunderstand. Zhao Yuding waved her hand to stop his words. She sat in the sports car and glanced at him sideways. My legal assistant will contact you soon. The car started. Lu Fei originally wanted to stop the car and act shamelessly, but when he saw Zhao Yuding's cold face, he did not dare to continue to pester her. He could only curse in his heart and curse his bad luck. After being expelled by the elite martial arts guild, Lu Fei was not doing well. The awakened circle in Jinghai City was so big. Everyone knew that Lu Fei was expelled by the elite martial arts guild and had conflicts with the emerging super gods. Although Lu Fei had some strength, no guild was willing to take the risk of taking him in. If he offended the new boss, Bai Xiaowen, who could he reason with? Lu Fei attributed the reason for his unhappiness to Bai Xiaowen. Now that Bai Xiaowen had an accident, he was very happy. He felt that a mountain pressing on his head had collapsed, and the future was bright again. Getting close to Zhao Yuding was his first step, but now it was stillborn. And because he annoyed Zhao Yuding, he would soon be asked for the psionic points he owed during college. Lu Fei, who was poor in psionic points, really couldn't afford to pay it back. On the other side, Zhao Yuding drove very fast, forcibly overtaking more than a dozen cars along the way, causing the drivers to curse. Back at the Giant Gods Guild headquarters, Zhao Yuding walked to the president's office. In the office, the Giant Gods Guild's executives were arguing fiercely. Now is a great opportunity, Fu Qiu, who was wearing a long dress, said. Because of the rise of Bai Xiaowen and his White Phoenix team, the super gods are riding high. Treasure spaces, potion shops, guild quests. He had to get involved in everything. Now that the White Phoenix team has fallen, it's time to suppress the momentum of the super gods and make them retreat. I agree with Miss Fu's opinion. If the White Phoenix team falls, it means that the super gods have lost their support and will have to retreat on a large scale. Many guilds will want a share of the profits. The sooner we take action, the more we'll reap, a bespectacled middle-aged man said. Fu Yiping frowned and remained silent. After a while, he cast his gaze towards the mature-looking young man beside Fu Qiu. Fu Hong, what do you think? Fu Hong glanced at the others. His expression was calm. I have roughly understood everyone's suggestions. Please allow me to use a word to describe it, and that is, short-sighted. The expressions of everyone in the office changed. Fu Hong said coldly, the White Phoenix battle squad has yet to return. It is indeed possible that they have fallen and will never be able to return. But isn't there another possibility? They triggered the third main storyline and are still in the spiritual realm? Impossible. That's basically impossible. Fu Yiping said gently, Fu Hong, you've forgotten something. According to our summary, the third main storyline mission of the spiritual realm is very difficult to trigger. Generally, it will only be triggered when it is of great significance to the advancement of the grand unification process. In other words, triggering the third main storyline mission means grand unification. You don't think that the White Phoenix battle squad has the strength to achieve grand unification, do you? Fu Hong said calmly, I haven't forgotten this point. In fact, it's precisely because I consider that the White Phoenix battle squad may touch grand unification that I think everyone here is lacking in consideration. Don't underestimate Bai Xiaowen's ability. We've already suffered once because we underestimated his ability. Now that everyone has said it, who dares to give me a 100% guarantee that the White Phoenix battle squad will not return alive? Who is willing to take responsibility for this assertion? Fu Hong's sharp gaze swept around, but no one dared to make this guarantee. In other words, you all have the possibility in your hearts that the White Phoenix battle squad will return. Fu Hong slowed down his tone. You've also watched the live broadcast of today's league. Those two small hosts actually know very little. They simply don't understand the significance of the third main storyline mission representing grand unification. In other words, if the White Phoenix battle squad successfully returns, it means that they are a team that has completed grand unification, or at least touched upon grand unification of the planes. What does this mean? Fu Hong continued, a team that can touch upon grand unification of the planes is already at the level of a strong team in the League A. And to be able to complete grand unification, looking at the Super Cup, how many powerhouse teams can do it? Grand unification was not only about strength, but also about luck. The so-called right time, right place, and right people were indispensable. Some top-level awakened ones deliberately did not trigger the grand unification process and stayed in the awakened realm to accumulate strength. But even if these top-level awakened ones were determined to advance to Evolver and complete grand unification, it was not something that could be done just because they said so. Often, after several or dozens of plane explorations, all their efforts would be in vain. Fu Hong's words frightened Fu Yiping. He could not help but consider the possibility that Fu Hong had mentioned. If the White Phoenix battle squad really returned, would the Giant Gods Guild have the confidence to withstand the revenge of a grand unification team? Fu Yiping was unwilling to think about this answer. In fact, even if they could withstand it, their vitality would be greatly damaged. The price was too great. Fu Hong, do you think we should wait and see? Fu Yiping asked. Fu Hong shook his head. No, waiting is a bad idea. We should take this opportunity to ease our relationship with the super gods and even deepen our cooperation. I guarantee that we should not fall out with the super gods for at least 6 months. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room had different expressions. Fu Qiu even opened his mouth to refute. However, Fu Yiping raised his hand to stop everyone. Just do as Fu Hong says. As if seeing the puzzlement in everyone's eyes, Fu Yiping opened his mouth to explain. You must be very curious as to why I changed my mind and reconciled with the super gods. In fact, I didn't. I just chose a more secure way. 6 months of observation is enough. And in these 6 months, even if we cooperate with the super gods and share some benefits with them, what does it matter? Once we confirm that the White Phoenix battle squad has completely fallen, as a partner, it will be more convenient for us to cut flesh and blood from the super gods. Whoosh. There was applause. Everyone in the room looked at their president with admiration. Fu Hong turned his head and looked out the window, silent. Super gods. Li Beihai looked at the warning stone. This was already the 10th time he had taken out the warning stone to look at it. Every time he took out this stone, Li Beihai felt a little uneasy. He was afraid that when he took it out, he would find that the stone was broken. Seeing that the stone was intact, Li Beihai breathed a sigh of relief, put it back into the storage space, and then began a new round of nagging. I'm so stupid, really. I was worried that something would happen to Shi, Xiao Bai, and the others. These children have already surpassed me, and they also have the town return scroll. Even if they encounter danger, they will definitely be able to escape back. No matter what, they won't be wiped out all at once. There will always be a few who can come back. It's okay, it's okay. Let's sleep. Tomorrow, my dear daughter and Xiao Bai will be back. Li Beihai's burly body lay on the sofa, and the sofa began to creak and groan. Although the quality was good, it could not withstand Li Beihai's pancake crushing over and over again. Separated by a wall. Old Monster looked at the members of the Super Gods battle squad and sighed. The president has always been like this. Old Monster, didn't you try to persuade him? Miakon scratched his head. Although I have some opinions about Bai Xiaowen, I have to admit that he is very strong. There shouldn't be any problems. I tried, but it was useless. I hope there won't be any problems. Now, our guild is relying on the White Phoenix battle squad to support our reputation, a member said. I really can't imagine what will happen to the guild if something happens to the White Phoenix battle squad. Old Monster looked at this scene and felt inexplicably relieved. It seemed like the majority of the guild battle teams were still sensible. There weren't any narrow-minded people who couldn't see the situation clearly. Suddenly, a burst of spatial energy fluctuations came, accompanied by flashes of white light. Swish 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 swish, 5 figures appeared in the hall one after another. The auras of the 4 high-level heroes quickly spread out. Update soonest, the new 81st Chinese network, M. Chapter 1037. Super Gods. Cheers. The return of the 5 members of the White Phoenix team had cleared away the gloom that had shrouded the guild. Old Yao and Li Beihai were in the president's office, recording the information that the White Phoenix team had obtained from their exploration of the spirit realm according to the guild's rules. There's no valuable information, Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. A plane called Black Tide has been reshaped. Clack. The electronic pen in Old Yao's hand fell to the ground. What did you say? Is that true? Old Yao and Li Beihai asked at the same time after a brief moment of astonishment. They were asking the same question. Li Shi said, It's true, Dad. We've been in the Black Tide plane for more than a month, but it feels like half a year. It's very tiring. Qiao Rui added with a smile, The harvest is also great. Good, that's great. Li Beihai suddenly thought of something, and his face tightened. Then, you've all been promoted? Are you evolvers now? Bai Xiaowen said with a puzzled expression, No, why are we in a hurry to promote? Li Shi said, If we promote, won't we not be able to come back? Dad, why are you still asking this question? Li Beihai shook his head and said, It's not like that. The newly promoted evolvers will stay on Earth for a period of time to arrange some follow-up matters. After the period is over, the newly promoted evolvers will be teleported away. Although Li Beihai did not say where exactly the evolvers would go, Bai Xiaowen understood that it must be Starlink. Then, Bai Xiaowen briefly described the process of the exploration of the spirit realm, but omitted the plot of the scavenger mission. Old Yao and Li Beihai were dazzled by the story. After listening, Li Beihai said with some emotion, Xiao Bai not only became an evolver, but also an overlord template among the evolvers. Awesome, if you go to that place, you'll be an overlord. An overlord? It's a little exaggerated, Bai Xiaowen teased with a smile. It's not an exaggeration, Li Beihai said solemnly. Only Lord-level evolvers are qualified to have a territory. The overlord I'm talking about is the master of a territory. Other evolvers can only rely on Lord-class evolvers to survive. Bai Xiaowen suddenly recalled the fake Prince Richard he had offended back then. When he had introduced himself, he had said that he was the third-in-line successor to the Starlink's Quill Hill. He had even seemed very proud of it. Unknowingly, I had become the founder of the territory. Bai Xiaowen thought narcissistically that the life of a genius was indeed as lonely as snow. Li Beihai knew some secret information about the Interstellar Alliance's territory because his father, Old Master Li, was an Interstellar Alliance evolver. How is the connection between that place and Earth? Is it close? Bai Xiaowen asked. Li Beihai replied, it's all right. I can think of ways to convey some important information, but there's a cooldown time limit. It's good that you can contact it. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. Then after becoming an evolver and going to that place, you should still be able to come back, right? What are the conditions? He remembered how the evolution of the Eye of Evolution had attracted a high-level demon from another realm to capture him. In the end, 3 evolvers who were on vacation had cut off the Balrog's arm. Li Beihai shook his head. I don't know the details, but Old Master said that the chances of coming back are still relatively small. The old demon coughed. Then the intelligence gathering this time is only the great unification and reconstruction of the Black Tide Plane. Li Beihai was pulled back to the topic at hand and continued to sigh. Yes, I really didn't expect. I thought that even if you triggered the 3rd main mission, you wouldn't be able to complete the unification. I didn't expect that you guys would really do it. Amazing, amazing. Then when exchanging information with other guilds, should we keep this information a secret? The old demon continued to ask. Li Beihai and the others in the office all looked at Bai Xiaowen. Bai Xiaowen smiled and shook his head. Why should we keep it a secret? There's no need to hide, just say what needs to be said. I'm not relying on this information to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger and slap others in the face. It's not bad to let others know of our strength early and show off our muscles. In the Circle of Awakened, showing a strong image would make many things much easier. Bai Xiaowen did not have that kind of bad taste. He had to wait for others to look down on him and choke him before he showed his strength. It would be more trouble for no reason. Moreover, showing off and slapping others in the face would also make unnecessary enemies. After all, no one liked to be slapped in the face. The old demon said excitedly, good. With a great unification team, our guild's strength has even surpassed most of the grade A guilds. Li Beihai was more clear-headed than the old demon. The foundation of the guild is still not enough. To be honest, without Xiao Bai and the others, the guild will be beaten back to its original state in minutes. It's better not to be too optimistic. Xiao Bai and the others will become evolvers sooner or later and leave Earth. Bai Xiaowen said, not in the short term. We have to fight a few more great unification. On one hand, it's to increase our strength reserves. On the other hand, it's also to choose the strongest evolver template. Li Beihai smiled bitterly. The great unification that others yearn for is as simple as eating and drinking for you. It's really. He shook his brown bear-like head, unable to think of a suitable adjective. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, well, actually, I'm not blindly confident. To be honest, the great unification is still quite difficult. The reason we were able to achieve the great unification in advance was mainly because of the spirit realm's rules behind the scenes. That great lord is quite a big threat to the spirit realm's rules. With the help of such a push, we have a smooth journey." After saying that, Bai Xiaowen looked back at his 4 teammates. "This does not mean that our strength has reached the level where we can stand on equal footing with the other powerhouses. Everyone, remember this. Do not slack off." "Yes." His 4 teammates replied loudly. "By the way, from your description, did you encounter other Awakened this time?" Li Beihai frowned and said, "This is not normal. Usually, there are at least a few dozen Awakened participating in the Great Unification Plane." Bai Xiaowen thought of the scavenger mission and said, "Maybe the Spirit Realm's rules have other concerns, so they block the matching of other Awakened. This is actually a good thing. I don't need to calculate the variables brought by the Awakened. I just need to focus on dealing with the people in the Spirit Realm." After talking about the exploration of the Spirit Realm, Bai Xiaowen changed the topic. "How's the League? I remember that we went to the Spirit Realm at the beginning of the rest month. Now, more than a month has passed. This league should have started a few days ago." Old Demon said, "Fortunately, you missed 3 matches and have slipped to 3rd place in the league. This includes the match against the Silver Frost team, the 1st place of the league too. In this way, it will be difficult to catch up in the future. After all, under the situation that they do not encounter you, the Silver Frost team's winning streak will not be interrupted." Bai Xiaowen shrugged and said, "It's a pity, but it's nothing. 3rd place in the regular season still has a place in the playoffs. It will not affect the championship." After coming out of the Black Tide Plain, Bai Xiaowen really felt that all the mountains were small. At least in the League 2, he felt that he would not be able to find a match. If the League 2 teams, such as Jingwu, were to fight again, they would definitely be defeated by the White Phoenix team in a 0 manner. They would be pressed to the ground and beaten up crazily. In the League 2, only the Silver Frost team, which had retired from League 1, was interesting. Bai Xiaowen was a person who never wanted to stop moving forward. If the League 2 was not good for him and the team, he would not even bother to participate. What was the point of just beating noobs? It was more interesting to beat up experts and strong teams. In the next stage, we will train a little and digest the gains of this exploration, turning them into real strength. Bai Xiaowen turned to Cecilia and said, "Sister Sai, go back to the territory. Without you around for more than a month, I am worried that something will happen to the territory." At the moment, the territory is still an indispensable source of income for us. Cecilia nodded. She also knew the importance and immediately said, "If I encounter a problem, use the old method to warn me in the warehouse where the goods are transferred. If it is not convenient for you to go, summon me to understand the details." Bai Xiaowen nodded and said, "This is a good idea." Cecilia immediately held Bai Xiaowen's face and gently kissed him on the lips. "I love you." The white Stonehill fief order glowed, and Cecilia's figure disappeared. Li Beihai, the old monster, everyone in the White Phoenix team, cough cough, different customs and different ideas. This kind of parting ceremony is normal for Cecilia. Bai Xiaowen said with a little guilty conscience. Chapter 1038. The White Phoenix team had returned. This news caused a huge uproar in the awakened circle of Jinghai City and even the whole country. Old Demon received several groups of guild representatives in a row, all of whom came to exchange the latest information with the super gods. Based on Bai Xiaowen's attitude, Old Demon did not refuse anyone. As long as the other party was sincere, he would exchange the information about the reincarnation reconstruction of the Black Tide Plain. Anyway, every exchange of information was notarized by the rules of the spiritual realm, so there was no need to be afraid of anyone playing tricks. When it came to playing tricks, at most, only 9 out of 10 true sentences would be said, and the most important sentence would be left out, causing the other party to have some wrong guesses. That was all. However, how many people could beat Bai Xiaowen when it came to deceiving people with real and fake information? After a few familiar guilds exchanged information with the super gods, the entire awakened circle of Jinghai City knew almost everything. Then, the awakened circle of Jinghai City was shocked. Even more shocked. Originally, they were still surprised by the safe return of the White Phoenix team. Judging from the time, this meant that the White Phoenix team had triggered the third main mission and had come in contact with the plane unification. And now the shock was entirely because the White Phoenix team had not only come in contact with the opportunity of the grand unification, but also perfectly grasped this opportunity to complete the reincarnation reconstruction of a plane world. Discovering an opportunity and seizing this opportunity and succeeding were two completely different concepts. This was probably like the Huaxia of the Millennium AD era. Many people knew that real estate could make money, but in the end, the only one who relied on real estate to become the richest person was the old principal. After many people heard the news, their first reaction was that the White Phoenix team was bragging. Think about it, a group of young awakened who had just graduated from university could complete the top achievement of the awakened stage, grand unification. It was like a senior graduate solving gold box conjecture. It was a fantasy. But they had to believe it, because bragging about this kind of thing had no value. Maybe someone would soon be matched with the new black tide plane. What's more, the information that was leaked was notarized by the rules of the spiritual realm, and the authenticity was guaranteed. Therefore, these people who found it hard to believe changed their minds. Perhaps the White Phoenix battle team had inadvertently hugged a thigh. There were other top awakened ones in the black tide realm, and the White Phoenix battle team had hitched a ride. But no matter what, the importance the outside world placed on the White Phoenix battle team had once again risen. So what if they were hitching a ride? Without enough strength, they would be thrown off even if they were hitching a ride. Without triggering the third main storyline, they wouldn't have enough time to stay. And if the White Phoenix team relied on their own strength to complete the grand unification, that would be even more terrifying. Such a team would already be at the top of the earth. No matter what other people thought, Bai Xiaowen did not care at all. He had too many things to do. The great batch of primeval hero souls obtained from the Dusty Temple covered the top advanced combat specialties in all aspects, including single-handed sword techniques, two-handed sword techniques, long-handled weapons, shields. Almost everything was there. After Bai Xiaowen integrated the combat specialties of these heroic souls into his summoned creatures, he used memory sharing to integrate these precious combat experiences and memories into his own mind. Then, he practiced hard and turned them into his own physical instincts. Bai Xiaowen's initial plan was to upgrade these specialties to level 8, which would be in line with his current level. With memory sharing and the title of all-around dominator, Bai Xiaowen's advancement was very terrifying. In the eyes of others, Bai Xiaowen was a genius with almost monstrous aptitude. Think about it, when a speciality reached the advanced stage, other people would need to train hard for 1 or 2 months to be able to upgrade their specialties by 1 level. Even if they were stuck, they would not be able to upgrade their specialties. But Bai Xiaowen upgraded one of his specialties from level 7 to level 8 in a short day. What was even more shocking was that Bai Xiaowen was not only upgrading his specialties quickly, but all his specialties were so fast. He was simply an all-rounder. Besides training, Bai Xiaowen balanced work and rest and took care of some other things, including refining a batch of potions for the super godly potion shop, guiding his sister's training, and so on. In the villa's training room, little June was sweating profusely. Her hands were on the ground, and she was in a handstand. Her 2 strong and powerful legs were in a straight line in the air, constantly closing and opening as she tested her balance. With a beeping sound, little June breathed a sigh of relief and landed on her feet. "Brother! I'm done." Little June poked her head out of the small dark room. "Well, you did well. Next, do the general knowledge simulation paper. If I also get a high score on the general knowledge paper, you will allow me to enter the spiritual realm to awaken, right?" Little June asked. "That's right." Bai Xiaowen gave an affirmative answer. Little June's basic attributes were currently 19. 6, she only needed 0. For more to reach the standard of a quasi-awakened. Bai Xiaowen deliberately stopped little June's strengthening diet to prevent her basic attributes from increasing. In short, he wanted little June to be prepared before she awakened. However, little June obviously couldn't wait. She wanted to become an awakened as soon as possible. Little June's foundation was much more solid than Bai Xiaowen's. Throughout the whole process, she didn't take an attribute strengthening potion even once. She relied solely on the A-class strengthening diet and the supporting scientific training method to tap into her potential. At the age of 16, she reached the level of a quasi-awakened in her second year of high school. Little June's attributes were still relatively balanced, but her spirit was slightly lower. However, this was the case for most quasi-awakened. During the awakening task, little June would be able to find out her main attribute. The spirit realm's rules generated the task based on the quasi-awakened's main attribute. Even if the quasi-awakened's physical attributes were balanced, the spirit realm's rules would be able to find their main attribute when they scanned their body. Ring ring ring. His phone rang. Bai Xiaowen had just finished refining a bottle of potion. He immediately walked out of the small dark room and picked up the landline. It was the guild's guard uncle. Mr. Bai, a gentleman named Fu Hong is looking for you. He is currently waiting in the elevator area on the first floor of the building. Would you like to see him? Let him in. Bai Xiaowen put down the phone. According to his understanding, the Giant Gods Guild had been relatively well behaved during this period of time. Especially when the news of the White Phoenix battle team falling into the spirit realm was spreading like wildfire, the Giant Gods Guild did not kick them when they were down. They even took the initiative to extend an olive branch to Li Beihai for cooperation. Of course, Bai Xiaowen returned the day after the cooperation was proposed. Bai Xiaowen did not have much ill feelings towards such a Giant Gods Guild. As for the Giant Gods Guild's real thoughts, Bai Xiaowen did not care. He knew that if he and the White Phoenix battle team could not return, it was hard to say whether the Giant Gods Guild would continue to restrain their desire to kick them when they were down. In order to gain a foothold in the awakened world, personal strength was the first priority. As long as he and the White Phoenix battle team continued to grow stronger, neither the Giant Gods Guild nor other forces would come looking for trouble. Fu Hong had come to visit to discuss further cooperation. The exchange the day before yesterday was just the beginning. Bai Xiaowen did not put on any airs in the face of Fu Hong's goodwill. After they finished discussing business, Fu Hong changed the topic. I forgot to say, congratulations on your return. Thank you. You have completed the great unification. Many people don't believe that you did it with your own strength. But I believe it, Fu Hong said with a smile. When do you plan to leave? Not for the time being. Bai Xiaowen understood what Fu Hong meant. It's a bit strange. You don't seem like the kind of person who is stagnant. Constantly pursuing higher and stronger is your character. Could it be that you want to learn from Heavenly Lord Furious Roar and the others, who are reluctant to part with the power and influence of Earth and would rather postpone their advancement to become an evolve to stay? Bai Xiaowen smiled, shook his head, and said, No, I'm just waiting for a better opportunity. Fu Hong narrowed his eyes and thought for a while, then said tentatively, the opportunity to become a lord? Bai Xiaowen smiled and shook his head. There is already one. Fu Hong thought about it and understood. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said with a wry smile, Your heart is really big. I'll take my leave. Immediately, Fu Hong stood up, leaned slightly toward Bai Xiaowen, and held Bai Xiaowen's palm with both hands. Fu Hong would only shake hands like this with the big shots of the Awakened Association. But now, in Fu Hong's eyes, Bai Xiaowen was an out-and-out big shot. For a pragmatic person like Fu Hong, status was only linked to strength, and had nothing to do with seniority. Goodbye. Bai Xiaowen took 2 steps forward, but Fu Hong stopped him. Don't, big shot, please stay. You don't have to send me off. Looking at Fu Hong's back as he walked out respectfully, Bai Xiaowen shook his head. 8. Chapter 1039. Brother, I'm done. In the study next door, little June hopped out like a lively deer. She handed 2 fully written test papers to Bai Xiaowen. Okay, let me take a look. Bai Xiaowen picked up the red pen little June handed over and quickly marked the papers. For a straight-A student like him, even though the college entrance examination had been going on for 2 years, marking the papers was not difficult at all. After marking for a while, Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. Little June had a solid grasp of basic knowledge. This meant that little June had a good memory and a high IQ. This should be a family trait. Little June's train of thought was quite good for the major questions at the back, especially the choices related to the exploration of the spirit world. She could give her reasons for each choice. In fact, there was no right or wrong choice in the exploration of the spirit world, only pros and cons. As long as the reasons were sufficient, it was fine to carry out the choice according to one's own choice. The biggest taboo in the exploration of the spirit world was to not be able to see the situation clearly and to run around like a headless fly, wasting time. In short, doing was more important than waiting, most of the time. Bai Xiaowen quickly finished marking. "How is it, brother?" Little June pulled Bai Xiaowen's arm and asked carefully. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. "Well done." Although Bai Xiaowen believed that he had better choices and reasons for some of the major questions, he did not force them on little June. At this stage, confidence was very important for little June. "Can I go to the spirit world now?" Little June's big eyes suddenly sparkled. "Yes." "That's great." Little June was as happy as a 16-year-old child. "Don't worry, let's make the necessary preparations first." Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "Let's not restore the enhanced diet for now. I still need to prepare something for you before you can go to the spirit world." Little June was puzzled. "Didn't you already prepare it for me?" "Prepare what?" "I prepared a piece of dark gold equipment. With it, the success rate of my transition will double," little June said. "Who told you?" "Wait, it was Shui who told you." Bai Xiaowen patted his head and shook his head with a bitter smile. Expecting a woman to keep a secret was harder than asking a duck to walk without moving its butt. Little June stuck out her tongue. "The equipment that Shi mentioned is just one of the things that I need to prepare." Bai Xiaowen patted Xiao Jun's head. "I still need to find you a special psionic treasure so that you can change your class into a powerful hero class with exclusive equipment. I will be going to some auctions soon, so be patient." All right. Brother, you're the best." Xiao Jun already knew about the importance of the class change template and exclusive equipment. She nodded obediently with a look of joy on her face. Ring, 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 the phone rang again. It was the security guard again. "Mr. Bai, the representative of the Awakened Association is here to see you." "Let them in." Bai Xiaowen had turned on the speakerphone. When Xiao Jun heard this, she asked curiously, "Why are the people from the association looking for you?" "It might be about my absence from the previous league." Bai Xiaowen could not think of anything else that the Awakened Association would need to look for him. Soon, Bai Xiaowen met the association's representative, Secretary Zhao. As President Yang's secretary, Zhao Ziliang was considered a celebrity in Jinghai City. Usually, when he saw an outstanding awakened like Bai Xiaowen, he did not feel that he was inferior. But today, Zhao Ziliang appeared quite respectful in front of Bai Xiaowen. When the Awakened Association received the big shots who came for a vacation, Zhao Ziliang was fortunate enough to meet them. For some reason, when he saw Bai Xiaowen, Zhao Ziliang felt the same way. "Ah. Secretary Zhao, what brings you here?" Bai Xiaowen asked. Sure enough, as soon as Zhao Ziliang sat down, he mentioned the absence from the league. "Hello, Captain Bai. The White Phoenix team has been absent for 3 league matches, so we can only regretfully rule it as a loss. The Awakened Association can't do anything about it. Please understand." Bai Xiaowen was speechless. Sure enough, when one's strength increased, one's status would also increase. The Awakened Association actually came to him to explain this matter. Could it be that they were afraid that he would ask for a rematch? However, when Secretary Zhao said this, Bai Xiaowen realized something. Now, his words carried a lot of weight in the Awakened Circle. It was because of his weight that the association sent someone to explain in advance. I understand. If there's a rematch, it means that the competition schedule is not fair. It will affect the judgment of the spiritual realm's rules and the final award, Bai Xiaowen said. Zhao Ziliang breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. Yes. But don't worry, Captain Bai. In the calculation of the spiritual realm's rules, this kind of absence due to the exploration of the spiritual realm will not be counted as a loss for the team. In other words, if you can maintain a clean slate in the following matches in the playoffs, the spiritual realm's rules will still judge you as the champion with a clean slate. Oh, really? That's not bad. Bai Xiaowen smiled. It's true. There has been such a precedent before. When Zhao Ziliang saw the big boss's kind smile, he quickly followed up with a smile. To put it simply, the actual consequence of your absence for these 3 games is that you didn't get any points in these 3 games of the regular season. That's all. Understood. Is there anything else, Secretary Zhao? Bai Xiaowen asked. Zhao Ziliang said, there's one more thing. There's an anomaly somewhere in the Great Southwest. The higher-ups are very concerned and have recruited a strong team to investigate. I wonder if the White Phoenix team has this intention. Anomaly? Is there any specific information? Bai Xiaowen frowned and asked. It's not clear yet. It's only detected that the concentration of psionic particles is rapidly increasing. Zhao Ziliang said honestly, generally, there are 2 possibilities for this situation. Either a planar rift has appeared and the creatures of the spiritual realm have invaded, or a certain plane of the spiritual realm has been remodeled and a large spatial fragment has fallen down and landed in the Great Southwest. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly and narrowed his eyes. The first possibility, a planar rift, was a tough job. They had to fight an unknown number of enemies of unknown strength from the spiritual realm. If it was really a rift, it could be predicted that the rift would not be small. The second possibility was a good job. A large spatial fragment meant a treasure space. After entering and seizing the spatial origin fragment, they would be able to obtain another treasure space. However, Bai Xiaowen still shook his head. The situation is not clear yet. My team needs some time to rest and reorganize. I won't be joining in on this investigation mission. After a pause, Bai Xiaowen said, however, I will keep an eye on this matter. If the situation is very serious in the end, I am also willing to respond to the country's call and lead a team to participate. Chapter 1040. Brother, does that Secretary Zhao want you to go to the Southwest now? Xiao Jun asked. More or less. He probably wants the White Phoenix battle team to act as a scout team and investigate the situation. Then, the association will decide whether to send more top teams. Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. From the Awakened Association's point of view, this decision is normal. After all, the Southwest's movement is not small. They won't feel at ease if they send ordinary teams. If they directly send a top team, it may be a waste of talent. Moreover, to persuade a veteran top team to go, they will have to pay a lot of bargaining chips. Xiao Jun understood. The White Phoenix battle team should be considered a new top team, right? So, the association wants you to go. The price paid will be smaller and there will be a chance to complete the mission. Then, brother, your following statement means that you don't want to be the first to investigate. You want to wait until the situation is clear and there are benefits to be gained. Bai Xiaowen smiled and grabbed Xiao Jun's braids. It's not just me. Those veteran top teams will probably make the same decision. Since you have the strength of a big shot in the Awakened Circle, you must have the self-awareness of a big shot. Otherwise, if you ask me to do some scouting mission, won't you lose face? Okay, pass the tea to the big shot. Xiao Jun picked up the teacup and said, brother, your next match is coming soon. It's tomorrow. After all, it's still within the competition month. There are still around 20 days of competition. It's relatively crowded. I've seen the competition schedule. Your next match is against the Star Moon Battle team. According to the report, the team completed a very successful exploration of the spirit world half a month ago. The strength of every member has increased. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. Brother, don't you care at all? The Star Moon Battle team has recently won 4 consecutive matches. Many people think that they are a strong team with hopes of entering the playoffs. Bai Xiaowen nodded again. Brother, is Sister Cecilia not coming back? Bai Xiaowen nodded for the 3rd time. Luzhou Base City, Central Gymnasium. Today, a 2nd Division tournament was going to be held here. The local 2nd Division team, Star Moon Battle Team, would be facing off against the White Phoenix Battle Team, who had come from afar. Originally, a League 2 match would not attract much attention. However, it was now the era of hype where traffic was king. Coupled with the fact that the challenger team was a hot topic, the local media in Luzhou could easily find a lot of hot spots for hype. They successfully previewed the atmosphere of this match. On one side was the local powerhouse, Star Moon, who had improved significantly and had already won 4 consecutive matches. On one side was the White Phoenix Battle Team, a dark horse that had just been rumored to have fallen into the spirit realm and had returned safely. Many citizens of Luzhou City were willing to spend some money on the weekend to watch this exciting battle. The host on the stage introduced the 2 teams at the top of his lungs. The poses of the players, along with their names, occupations, and other basic information, appear on the big screen. In the audience, some sharp-eyed people noticed that something was wrong. Why are there only 4 people in the White Phoenix Battle Team? Yeah, isn't there a beautiful archer who was abducted from the spirit world? Why don't I see her? The White Phoenix Battle Team isn't preparing to fight 4 against 5, right? They don't have any substitutes either. The buzzing below the stage was like a swarm of bees. After the host's commentary confirmed that the White Phoenix Battle Team's archer, Cecilia, was absent, the buzzing turned into a wave of discussion. The White Phoenix Battle Team is a little arrogant. They look down on others too much. Do they think the Star Moon Battle Team is easy to bully? After all, they are a new team formed by a group of young people. They lost their way after winning a dozen matches in a row. I strongly support the Star Moon Battle Team. Play well and teach these arrogant young people a lesson. Let them know that arrogance and conceit are not desirable. In the players' lounge, Bai Xiaowen did not talk too much about the routine tactical arrangements. The other 3 teammates did not ask about Cecilia, nor did they discuss the match. They all chatted casually. The 4 of them did not have the so-called confident expression on their faces. Instead, they looked indifferent, as if they were here for a vacation. Captain, do we need to hide some of our new tricks during the match? Qiao Rui raised his hand and asked. For example, Han Su's new equipment set and Shu Yi's awakening skill can be hidden. When we meet a strong opponent in the future, we can use them to surprise them. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. No, there's no need to hide anything. We should use them when we need to. After a pause, Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, if we are not strong enough, we need to think about using surprise attacks and hiding secret weapons. Our team is strong enough. We can just crush them directly. Bai Xiaowen still had one more thing that he did not say. As a newly promoted unified team, the White Phoenix Battle Team needed to show off their abilities. Otherwise, others would think that their unified team was not as strong as they seemed. On the other side, in the Star Moon Battle Team's lounge, they also learned that the White Phoenix Battle Team's archer was absent and that only 4 people were going to fight. However, they were not as angry as the audience. Only awakened ones could realize the terrifying power of a unified team. After the Star Moon Battle Team learned of the White Phoenix Battle Team's unification through the guild's channel, they did not put themselves on the same level as the White Phoenix Battle Team. Although they were still a little unwilling to be looked down upon, when they remembered that it was a big shot battle team that looked down on them, that feeling of unwillingness quickly dissipated. Instead, it was replaced by a feeling of wanting to go all out and prove their strength in front of a big shot battle team. This might not be a bad opportunity. The White Phoenix battle team has just completed their unification, and they definitely haven't had the time to digest the rapid leap in their strength. They must have been blindly inflated by a wave, and that's why they're fighting us with an incomplete lineup. If we can defeat the White Phoenix battle team and kill Bai Xiaowen, our Star Moon battle team's reputation will also rise in the Awakened Circle. The one who spoke was Captain Han Xinyue, the only woman in the team. The other 4 men admired and revered their team leader, Han Xinyue. For example, they were like a goddess and 4 licking dogs. As the only hero in the team, Han Xinyue had both strength and temperament. She was indeed a goddess. So when Han Xinyue spoke, the 4 men nodded in agreement and expressed their support. At this time, the bell rang and the live broadcast prompted the 2 captains to draw lots. Then, Han Xinyue saw Bai Xiaowen, wearing a commander's cloak, standing tall on the stage like a crane. He was extraordinary. Damn it. Han Xinyue felt her little heart being grabbed by a hand and stopped beating for a moment. Then, Han Xinyue let out a long breath. So what if he's good-looking? We're opponents now. But he's too good-looking. Then let's kill your teammates first. Chapter 1041. Now that the 2 captains are on the stage, please choose your map. Captain Bai Xiaowen has guessed the front. Captain Han Xinyue, please choose to disable the mode. You can choose one of the 6 modes, but it will not be used in this game. Okay, Captain Han Xinyue has disabled the solo challenge mode. Captain Bai Xiaowen, please choose to disable it. Captain Bai Xiaowen has chosen to ban the empty mode. It seems that Captain Bai is very confident in his team's strength. I hope that his confidence is not over the top. Bai Xiaowen could only smile when he heard the male host's words, which were full of vicissitudes of life, using an adorable tone to stab him with hidden needles. He was not angry. After all, the host was a local commentator from Luzhou. What made Bai Xiaowen feel a chill was the host's tone. Next, let's draw the mode. Okay, let's look at the big screen. The final mode displayed is the Crystal Destruction mode. For the Crystal Destruction mode, a map will be selected from 3 popular MOBA games from the Christian era. Both captains, please disable 1 game each. The map will be randomly selected from the last game. Captain Bai Xiaowen, please disable it first. Arena of Valor, Bai Xiaowen said calmly. League of Legends, Han Xinyue followed. Okay, then the map will be selected from the Dota game. Let's wait and see the results. Stop. The Crystal Destruction mode will be selected from the Dota 6. 59C map. According to the results, Captain Bai Xiaowen will have the priority to choose a side. You can choose either the Heavenly Brilliance faction or the Nightcrawler faction. Heavenly Brilliance. Bai Xiaowen chose the blue side. Then, the Star Moon squad will be automatically matched with the Nightcrawler faction. Now, please enter the arena and prepare. The exciting game is about to begin. Bai Xiaowen and his 3 teammates walked towards the underground tunnel. On the stage, the commentator continued to speak to the audience. In the Crystal Destruction mode, the members of both teams will not really die after being killed. Instead, they will be revived in the base. The revival time will increase with the number of deaths. It's slightly different from the CUAA League. In the professional league, awakened players don't need to slowly level up from level 1. Instead, they can directly enter the map with their current strength. We only have one goal, and that is to destroy their main base. In particular, Dota-type maps with destroyed crystals have a unique resurrection mode, by life. After players die, they can choose to pay a certain amount of gold coins to be resurrected. However, the amount of gold coins required for resurrection is very high compared to the amount of gold coins players can earn in the game. On the big screen, the camera zoomed in, and a thumbnail map of the Dota game was quickly enlarged. Everyone, please look at these positions. These are the gathering points of wild monsters. Not only could players obtain gold coins from killing wild monsters, but they could also obtain their soul stones. If you use the Wild Monster Soul Stone on the army line, you can summon the previously killed wild monsters to help your allies in battle. The monsters summoned by the Wild Monster Soul Stone can be controlled by the Summoner class, but they won't enjoy the Summoner's bonuses. We've already played the Crystal Destruction mode of the B-League twice, so we should have some understanding of it. The 4 members of the White Phoenix team were in the Shining Sky Camp's base camp. The 3 exits of the base were covered by a hazy white light, so they couldn't go out for the time being. With a 1-minute countdown, Bai Xiaowen briefly communicated with his teammates and made some tactical arrangements. In this kind of tower-pushing game, the most important thing is the operation of the army line and the auxiliary role of wild monsters. Cecilia is busy in White Stone, so don't transfer her over for the time being. The 4 of us are at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, so we need to be more careful in cleaning up the army line and preventing the opponent from pushing the tower. But there's good news. Everyone has signed a contract with Wolf Valley, so you can ride on wolves to travel. It saves a lot of physical energy consumption, and the support speed is faster. Summoning wolves and maintaining the existence of wolf pack offspring will consume physical energy slowly, but when the wolves are in a non-combat state, it won't cause additional physical energy consumption. Compared to the physical energy consumption of the hunters when they travel by bus 11, it will certainly be much less. Although physical energy was not obvious, in a fierce battle that could easily last dozens of minutes, its precious role was obvious. Then how should we split up? Li Shi held his 2 swords and was already eager to try. Bai Xiaowen drew a simplified version of the map on the ground with a few strokes. Then, with the front defense towers of the top, middle, and bottom lanes as the center, he drew 3 circles. Han Su will take the top lane, Sister Qiao will take the bottom lane, and I will take the middle lane. Bai Xiaowen continued, in the circle I drew for Old Han and Sister Qiao, in addition to the defense towers and the army line, there is also a wild monster gathering point. You guys guard the tower and deal with the army line. If you have time, go to the nearest wild monster gathering point and clean up the wild monsters. As long as the defense pressure is not great, don't use the Soul Stone. Qiao Rui said with some embarrassment, Han Su and I don't often use large-scale damage skills, so we're not good at cleaning up the army line. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, don't worry. In the early stage of the game, there are only 4 soldiers in a wave. They are all ordinary soldiers, 3 melee soldiers and 1 ranged soldier. They can be killed by just pointing at them. Even if the meat grinder soldiers appear later on, they are only elite soldiers, and there is only 1 of them. As the game goes on, the number of soldiers will slowly increase, but by then, we will have already pushed to the high ground on the opposite side. Bai Xiaowen expanded the circle in the middle lane. With the summoned creatures to help guard the tower, my range of movement can be larger. As long as there is time, I can clear these wild monster gathering points. What about me? Li Shi asked. You go to the opposite side's jungle, Bai Xiaowen said. Attack the enemy's wild monsters and make them have no monsters to fight. Stealing wild monsters was fun for a while, but it would be fun to keep stealing wild monsters. What if we get caught by the enemy? Li Shi asked again. Then we'll kill them together with the wild monsters. Bai Xiaowen said, be careful and don't go up. If we chase them into the range of the defense towers, the fixed 300 physical bombing damage will be very painful. By default, the defense towers were equivalent to level 10 awakened. A single 300 physical damage, after factoring in the damage reduction of equipment and armor, would not be less than 150 damage to Li Shi. More importantly, the attack speed of the defense towers was quite fast. If he was controlled by the enemy under the towers, he would be killed in a few seconds. The bombing damage ignored the probability of parry, which meant that only tanks like Han Su could use their shields to block and reduce part of the damage. Okay. Li Shi did not question Bai Xiaowen's decision at all. Bai Xiaowen said, don't use the soul stones dropped by the wild monsters for now. We'll save them up. By the way, I remember that there is a limit to the number of wild monster soul stones, Qiao Rui reminded them. The limit is 4 per person. It's still quite generous. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand. Shi, go to the opposite side's jungle and steal some wild monsters. Remember to keep more soul stones of the dire wolves, rock golems, and centaurs. If the number of soul stones exceeds the limit, eliminate the soul stones of the kobold tribe and gnoll assassins. Got it. Beep. 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 The countdown was over. Chapter 1042. The 4 members of White Phoenix split up and went online. The camera panned to the commentary platform. In the crystal destruction mode, White Phoenix's disadvantage of 4 versus 5 will be magnified. Let's see how they split up. Tank Hansu will take the top lane while Utility Summoner Bai Xiaowen will take the middle lane. There shouldn't be any problems. What, Support Xiao Rui will take the bottom lane alone? What kind of strategy is this? Shouldn't the bottom lane be a duo? Looks like White Phoenix isn't willing to give up the resources in the jungle, so they send out Li Shui, who has strong individual combat ability, to farm in the jungle and accumulate soul stones. But in this way, the pressure on the bottom lane will be very great. Star Moon definitely won't let go of this point and will target it from the start of the game. After all, in the crystal destruction mode of the B-League, there's no such thing as slowly leveling up and accumulating equipment. Everyone will be in their strongest form from the start. Passing towers is a common occurrence. The commentator was the middle-aged man from before. He spoke very quickly, and the female commentator beside him couldn't interrupt. However, the middle-aged commentator was quickly slapped in the face. What? White Phoenix's assassin Li Shui didn't stay in her own jungle, but went straight across the river. What is she planning to do, invading the opponent's jungle at the start of the game? Luckily, there was another female commentator who was in charge of smoothing things over. This is a very aggressive strategy, and it's not rare in the competition. Li Shui's individual strength has been proven. If Star Moon doesn't send out more than 3 people, they won't be able to kill her. Forcefully clearing the opponent's jungle can reduce the opponent's soul stone resources. But that's too risky. However, before he could finish speaking, the middle-aged man was slapped in the face again. Star Moon's duo had chosen the top lane. In other words, Star Moon's focus was on the top lane. The middle-aged man was a bit stunned. His prediction was clearly aimed at the bottom lane support Xiao Rui. He coughed and said, "Could it be that Star Moon made a mistake?" That shouldn't be the case. The female commentator didn't quite understand, but she tried to smooth things over. Maybe Star Moon has a way to win by surprise. In reality, Star Moon Battle Team did not make a mistake. They had accurately predicted White Phoenix Battle Team's arrangement. The tanks would split up in a conventional way. "We'll prioritize the top lane," Han Xinyue, who was a marksman, quickly commanded in the team channel. "Ji Qi and I will maintain our pressure on the turrets to deplete the health of the turrets and the status of the tanks." After 4.5 minutes, when the first wave of meat grinders appeared, the party gathered and pushed forward. Kill Hansu, destroy the defense tower, and take down the second tower before the enemy arrives. We'll make a breakthrough from the top lane. Ji Qi was a little hesitant. That Hansu is a tank. It's not easy to kill him, right? Don't worry. Han Xinyue's tone was full of confidence. He's an elite. Even if he's a tank, his survivability won't be that high. Han Xinyue had a princess-like personality. If she had been in a normal team, even if she did not start a fight, her 4 elite teammates would have been displeased. However, the 4 men were Han Xinyue's lackeys, so they didn't mind. The name of the Star Moon Battle Team was derived from the meaning of stars surrounding the moon. Be careful. Someone has entered our jungle. Guabeli, the mage in the middle lane, reported loudly. At the same time, he marked on the map. He's in the top lane. Only one? He's here to steal the loot. The warrior in the jungle was called Jing Xing. He frowned and said, "I don't know who it is. If it's Bai Xiaowen, I might not be able to defeat him." "No. I saw Bai Xiaowen. He's facing me in the middle lane, Guabeli said. I think it's that agility-type warrior called Li Shui. Jing Xing, don't worry. Li Shui entered our jungle. Once you encounter him, our support will be much faster. Han Xingyue said. Once you discover him, delay him. Guabeli, pay attention to support him. Guabeli agreed. However, he was a little anxious. If he faced Bai Xiaowen in the middle lane, he would most likely be suppressed. If he went to support him, the middle lane would most likely be destroyed. Jing Xing, if I go to support him, remember to let me kill him, Guabeli reminded. Okay, no problem. After clearing a wave of Kobold camp, Jing Xing happily picked up a soul stone, Kobold tribe, and continued to the next monster gathering point. Wolf Pack. Jing Xing was excited. The command aura of the Wolf Pack could increase the attack power of allies. It was a rare team buff. Before Li Shui arrived, he quickly killed the Wolf Pack. Jing Xing strode forward and slashed the head of the giant wolf in front of him with his greatsword. He entered battle with the giant wolf. However, as soon as the battle started, support Ji Qi's voice sounded in the team channel. Old Jing, be careful. Li Shui is near you. Huh. Jing Xing's heart skipped a beat. Experienced as he was, he immediately chose to run in the opposite direction. At the same time, he shouted for support. The three wolves chased him for a short distance before returning to the camp. Li Shui was indeed lying in ambush. Qiao Rui's falcon spirit had been circling around Li Shui to help her scout her surroundings. Then, it would provide feedback through Qiao Rui's team channel. After discovering Jing Xing's position, Li Shui did not attack immediately. She wanted to wait until Jing Xing and the wolf pack were almost done fighting before coming out to kill both the player and the monsters. However, she did not expect Team Star Moon's scouting ability to be so good that they discovered Li Shui's position. Li Shui was not in a hurry to chase after Jing Xing when she saw him running away. Since she had been discovered, there was no need for her to hide. She walked out openly, drew her swords, and attacked the wolf pack in front of Jing Xing. Jing Xing, who was hiding in a corner of the terrain and watching this scene, felt terrible when he saw his monsters being snatched away. He kept calling for backup from his teammates. He did not dare to face Li Shui alone. After all, the other party was a hero. Guabeli in the mid lane and the duo in the top lane rushed over to provide support. For the mid lane, this was a huge loss because Bai Xiaowen had already pushed the minions to the bottom of the tower. He would lose a lot of gold coins from the minions and the tower's health would be reduced by a lot. However, Bai Xiaowen was not in a hurry to attack the mid lane tower. He left Butcher in the mid lane and returned to his own jungle to farm. As for why he did not provide support to Li Shui, he could provide support, but it was not necessary. Han Su on the top lane heaved a sigh of relief. He could now deal with the minions on the top lane. Jing Xing's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw Li Shui finish off the wolf pack without taking any damage and without using any skills. Even a level 10 sword mastery could not do this. Thinking of this, Jing Xing quickly warned his teammates. Be careful, this girl is not normal. She's not easy to deal with. Chapter 1043. Li Shui picked up the soul stone, wolf pack, that was floating in the air. Qiao Rui's voice rang in his ears. Be careful, there are 4 people surrounding you. They are. As soon as he finished speaking, a strong figure rushed out of the shadows. It was the warrior, Jing Xing. Charge. This charge skill was LVL 9. After locking onto the target, it would directly affect the target and make them unable to defend themselves. After using charge, Jing Xing's next physical attack damage would be increased by 200%. Li Shui seemed to have been hit by the shock skill and was rooted to the spot. In the distance, the green light of a spell lit up. A large hand entangled with roots quickly rose from the ground under Li Shui's feet. At the same time, a bullet whistled through the air. It was the 2-man team. Han Xingyue and her support, Ji Qi, had arrived. Not far away, magic waves rolled over. The mage, Guabali, appeared. He was chanting a spell, ready to deal a fatal blow to Li Shi. If you were to cause trouble in the opponent's jungle, you had to be prepared to be caught because the opponent's reinforcements were always closer than yours. In a situation where both sides were evenly matched, the opponent's reinforcements would definitely arrive first. A layer of fragmented golden light suddenly rose from Li Shi's body. Exclusive equipment, Ghost Mask LVL1 skill, Vow Shield. The support, Ji Qi's roots, turned into green dots of light and scattered. Bind was ineffective. Li Shi's figure suddenly flashed. In the next second, he appeared in front of Guabali. Invincible Slash. Guabali was shocked to find that the single target spell he had prepared had lost its target. The archer, Han Xinyue, was also shocked. She found that not only did her first shot miss, but her subsequent shots could not even lock onto Li Shi. 7 beautiful sword lights flashed. Li Shi's figure fluttered like a butterfly. What it brought was the cold light of death that was as cold as the moon. Chi 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 chi, 7 pillars of blood spurted out from Guabali's body at the same time. If it weren't for the +7 gold upper armor on his body, which provided considerable defense, he would have been killed instantly by the invincible slash. Force wave. Guabali suddenly pressed his staff down, and a burst of energy burst out, spreading in all directions. Based on his experience, this type of skill that couldn't be targeted was most vulnerable to AoE attacks. Not to mention that his force wave also had the 2 great special effects of repel and heavy deceleration. However, Guabali had neglected one thing. The golden shards of Vow on Li Shi's body had not been broken yet. The origin wave only managed to break through Li Shi's Vow shield before dealing a certain amount of magic damage to Li Shi. However, the 2 crucial control effects of push and heavy deceleration were successfully negated by the Vow shield. Li Shi relied on his amazing agility to turn around behind the mage and thrust his sword through his heart. Guabali transformed into a white light. Li Shi was surrounded by 4 people and killed one of them first. Her figure quickly disappeared into the shadows of the trees. Her terrifyingly high movement speed made it impossible for Han Xinyue to aim again. The Star Moon battle team felt a chill in their hearts. They had mobilized a division, but the enemy still managed to escape. This was a huge loss. "Hurry up and go back online," said the warrior Jing Xing, who was trembling in the shadows. He even had a feeling that with Li Shi's condition just now, if they fought head-on, they might lose another 2 people. White Phoenix battle team. Running away after killing someone, so exciting. But why did you let me run away? I think I could have killed 2 more. Li Shi, who had just taken the first hit, was very happy, but he still complained about Bai Xiaowen. Don't be careless. I know that your damage output is terrifying with your 2 passive skills maxed out, but your opponents aren't spiritual creatures. You can't just see them as a leader leading 3 elites, 4 people. Including their equipment and skills, they have at least 20 to 30 skills. There will definitely be a lot of control skills. If you get rid of one, there will be 2 more. Once you're controlled, with your body, you'll be instantly killed by a few shots. Bai Xiaowen explained, after the Vow shield is used, you can't continue fighting. Okay, let's kill another wave of monsters. We'll start with the ballistas in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The 2 of us will push them. Xiao Rui said, should we team up? No, guard the top and bottom lanes. Bai Xiaowen said, from the looks of it, the opponents should be focusing on the top lane. Old Han, stay calm. They might ask you to play mahjong at any time. Hansu said. Okay. When the time came to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, the first wave of ballista soldiers, including Shining Sun and Nightmares, appeared. Shining Sun's ballistas and Nightmares meat grinders had as high as 2000 HP. They were elites and could deal additional damage to the defense towers. As the players collected soul stones, it could be said that this was a rhythm in the early stages of the game. After all, in the crystal destruction mode of the professional league in the Dota map, there were no experience points or leveling up settings. Everyone was at their strongest when the game started. Even the gold coins were only saved to buy jobs in the later stages, therefore, killing people was not that important. The key to gaining an advantage in the game was to constantly push the towers, expand one's strategic depth, and reduce the opponent's map space. It was different from the Dota games of the AD era. However, the transition in the early stages of the game was not smooth. Their jungler, Jing Xing, had to be careful everywhere in the jungle. When Li Shi appeared, he gave up on a few groups of monsters. When the ballista soldiers appeared, Jing Xing only had 2 soul stones. One was from the Kobold tribe, and the other was from the Satyr tribe. After meeting up with Guabali, Han Xinyue, and Ji Qi, the support, Jing Xing, the jungler, used the soul stone of the Satyr demon tribe to summon 2 Satyr demons, a level 9 Satyr Hellbringer and a level 7 Satyr Soul Thief. Speaking of which, the Satyr Soul Stone was quite useful. The Satyr Hellbringer had an evil aura. Evil aura increases the movement speed of allies within 800 meters by 10%. Recovers 2 HP every 10 seconds. In addition, the Satyr Hellbringer had an active skill, Shockwave, which was a powerful AoE skill. On the other hand, the Satyr Soul Thief was much weaker. It only had a single spell that drained mana. It was not that these 2 elite demons did not have other skills, but only these 2 active skills could be used by the Awakened. The other abilities were passive abilities such as critical hit, evasion, and so on. As for the Kobold tribe, they were even weaker. They were all standard creatures, and they won by sheer numbers. However, no matter what, after the Star Moon Battle team had used 2 soul stones in the top lane, they had successfully gathered a wave of attacks. The jungler, Jing Xing, circled around to the back of the jungle. The 4 of them prepared to kill Han Su at the bottom of the tower and take down the first tower on the top lane. Update soonest, the new 81st Chinese network, M. Chapter 1044. Listening to Qiao Rui's report, Han Su saw a group of minions, a meat grinder, and 2 waves of monsters gathering in front of him. But that was not the point. The 3 in front and 1 in the back, a total of 4 enemy hunters were the key. The opposing tank was at the bottom lane. It was fortunate that the 5 of them did not rush over. If the tank with a shield carried the tower, it could reduce the tower's damage by a lot. The people are here, the tower is here. Han Su silently said to himself. He clenched the wrench in his right hand, and at the same time, the big shield in his left hand smashed on the ground with a bang. The monsters and minions rushed into the tower's range, and the meat grinder began to bombard the tower. The tower first attacked the meat grinder, once, twice. The meat grinder had an additional reduction to the tower's bombardment damage. If there were no heroes to attack, it would not be a problem to hold on for more than 10 seconds. Han Su did not have time to care. He had his back against the tower, and prioritized to clean up the melee minions rushing over. Kill! The Star Moon team crossed the tower together. They detected a new enemy unit entering the range, and the tower reassessed the threat. The warrior's charge was the first to hit and caused damage, and the tower locked on to attack. Han Su counterattacked on the spot, smashing the warrior's head with a wrench. Want to tank the tower for the team? Unfortunately, you are not a tank. Jing Xing was already experienced. After being slowed down by the wrench, he still waved his 2-handed sword to slash Han Su while calculating his HP. The other 3 were not weak either. Their attacks hit Han Su almost at the same time. Buzz! A sound like a big bell rang, and Han Su's sandalwood great armor emitted a dark light. He had activated the LV7 special effect, Solid Wall, giving up mobility in exchange for survivability as strong as steel nails. Defense doubled. At this time, Han Su's defense had exceeded the 200-point mark. The first wave of attacks from the Star Moon team was almost all physical damage, and it had little effect on Han Su. Pull back! It was obvious that the tank Han Su had activated some kind of defensive skill that greatly increased his damage reduction. This skill must have a time limit, so it was better to leave the tower's aggro range and wait for Han Su's damage reduction to end. Han Su suddenly raised his hand. Ding dang, the crisp sound of a bell rang, and a black phantom appeared in the mist not far away. The sound of water splashing could be heard, and a gigantic specter ship that was glowing with blue light rushed over at an extremely fast speed. Its landing point covered all the members of the Star Moon battle team. King of the Deep Sea Equipment sets active skill, Deep Sea Charge. Han Xinyue was shocked. Her shoes flashed and she jumped back like a bird. It was only because of her high dexterity that she was able to avoid the collision zone of the ghost ship. However, Han Su flicked his hand and threw out the anchor chain around his waist. Throw! The rusty iron chain hit Han Xinyue in the air. This was not a coincidence. On one hand, Han Xinyue was in the air when she jumped back. On the other hand, after Han Su got the anchor chain, he had been taking the time to train his advanced shooting skill. He had been doing this for more than a month in the Dark Tide. Han Su always believed that hard work could make up for his lack of dexterity. Although his dexterity was not good, he could always train hard and gain something by putting in 10 or 20 times more effort. Moreover, he had Cecilia, a teammate who was good at shooting, to learn from. Until now, Han Su's advanced shooting skill was not that high. It was only level 4. However, for the chain throw skill, it was almost enough. Especially when Han Xinyue was still in the air, she could not dodge left and right. Being caught by the chain, Han Xinyue was shocked at first. However, she calmed down and even showed a hint of curiosity. I am an agility-based archer, but as a level 8 hero, my secondary attribute is strength, which is 57 points. The drag effect of the chain throw skill depends on the strength judgment. You are a tank. How can you win against my 57 points of strength? The chain suddenly tightened. The huge force coming from the other side stunned Han Xinyue. Then, as if riding on clouds and mist, her body was once again dragged over to where Han Su was. Han Su's strength was indeed not 57 points, but it was as high as 44 points. This was also under the condition that his King of the Deep set added all his attributes to vitality. The key was that he had the tyrannical wrist guard and the sandalwood great armor, which added 15 and 10 points of strength respectively. In other words, when he was fighting with Han Xinyue, Han Su's strength was as high as 69 points. There was no doubt that he could drag Han Xinyue over. Boom! The Spectre ship slammed into the Star Moon team. The HP of the Star Moon team was greatly reduced and they were stunned. The collision of the Spectre ship caused at least 300 points of magic damage to the enemies in the area, and the additional stun time was up to 3 seconds. This was not an underwater battle. If it was an underwater battle, the damage and stun time would be doubled. After all, it was a Lord tier set. It could only be described as powerful. Swish! 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 The light kept flashing. The other 3 members of the Star Moon team used the control removal method almost at the same time and then fled. Among the 3, the one with the lowest HP was Jing Xing, the jungler who had taken the tower at the beginning. He had taken 3 attacks from the tower and was only left with a little HP. Unfortunately, with his short legs, he could not escape the attack range of the tower and was smashed to death. The other 2 long-range players, the support and the mage, were far away and successfully escaped. However, Han Xinyue was unlucky. She was dragged in front of Han Su by the chain around her waist. Just as she used the control removal badge, she heard a clang and her vision turned black. Han Su's heavy wrench hit her head. Han Xinyue's movement speed was greatly reduced. The key was that the tower had already started to attack her. And Han Xinyue's backward leap skill was still on cooldown. The light flashed again. Han Xinyue successfully removed the slow control again. This time, she used the control removal food. Then, relying on her high agility and the defense and damage reduction provided by the highly enhanced LV equipment, Han Xinyu finally escaped before she was killed by the tower. However, she did not have much HP left. A green light flashed above her head. The support, Ji Qi, quickly healed Han Xinyu. Han Su breathed a sigh of relief. He took the initiative to end the wall effect of the sandalwood great armor. He waved his wrench and killed the low HP soldiers one by one. After being hit by the Spectre ship with 300 points of magic damage, these low HP soldiers with zero magic resistance were basically left with 1/3 of their HP. Han Su easily killed one with a wave of his wrench. In a few hits, he killed all the close combat low HP soldiers. Then, he smashed 2 groups of wild monsters. During this process, the remaining 3 members of the Star Moon team could only watch helplessly. They had already lost the ability to continue to climb the tower. Han Su relied on the King of the Deep Sea equipment set and the waist-wrapping anchor chain to forcefully defend the first beat. The Star Moon team lost their rhythm, but the White Phoenix team's rhythm had already taken off. With a loud explosion, the tower in the middle lane was destroyed. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi led a large wave of troops and summoned creatures. They were already heading toward the second tower of the Star Moon team. The Star Moon team used the vision of the tower to see the 4 groups of wild monsters. They wanted to cry but had no tears. The dire wolf with the command aura and increased the attack power of all allies. The rock golem with the thick skin and thick flesh could carry the tower at the front. The ogre magician with the ice armor skill. The centaur Khan with the endurance aura and the AoE stun skill. The 8 groups of wild monsters were all carefully selected high-quality creatures. With the current miserable state of the Star Moon team, how could they defend? Even if they flew back to the middle lane with wings, they would not be able to defend. 8. Chapter 1045. Although Bai Xiaowen's summoner buffs were not affected by Bai Xiaowen's summoner buffs, they could still be controlled by Bai Xiaowen. When Team Star Moon rushed over, they could only see the ruins of the second tower in the middle lane. The first and second towers in the middle lane were very important in the crystal destruction mode. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were the defense hubs and the center of the army. After losing these 2 towers, Team Star Moon could only let Team White Phoenix run rampant in their own jungle and continue to expand their advantage. More importantly, the 8 groups of monsters were not one-time consumables. After controlling the monsters to destroy the towers, Bai Xiaowen could still control the monsters to retreat and keep an army of monsters. Of course, there was a limit to how long these summon monsters could last. After a few minutes, they would automatically disappear. With Team White Phoenix's ability, under such favorable conditions, they could actually try to take down the high ground. However, Bai Xiaowen did not take the risk. The tower's fixed explosion damage of 300 points could not be underestimated. Also, in Dota-type maps, attacks from low ground would have a certain probability of missing, which was a negative effect of not hitting the target. This was a natural advantage for the defending side. Team White Phoenix was missing 1 person after all, so they did not try to take down the towers. Bai Xiaowen led the army of monsters and summoned creatures and headed for the top lane. Li Shi continued to plunder the opponent's jungle and collect more soul stones. Bai Xiaowen and Han Su took down the first and second towers in the top lane and then moved to the bottom lane. Team Star Moon could not hold it in anymore. Before the second tower in the bottom lane, they started the first team battle with Team White Phoenix. It was also the last team battle. There was not much suspense in a 3v5. Team Star Moon's attributes were already at a disadvantage. Qiao Rui's soul rhythm was weakened, which made the difference in attributes even bigger. Bai Xiaowen's endless strong crowd control left Team Star Moon's only hero, Han Xinyu, with no room to attack. In just one exchange, Lu Yan, the tank player from Star Moon team, fell under Bai Xiaowen's multiple shards. The warrior player, Jing Xing, was bound to the ground by the Spirit Snake Whip. Very soon, he was also surrounded and beaten by the summoned creatures. As for Guabeli, he was unfortunate enough to encounter Li Shi, who had circled around in the wild zone. Once again, he was defeated by Li Shi's invincible slash. The supporting male Ji Qi and Han Xinyue fled in panic. Butcher's meat hook flew out. Ji Qi jumped out and blocked the hook for Han Xinyue. Then he hung up. Star Moon Battle Team had suffered a 0 for 4. Bai Xiaowen got 3 kills. Star Moon Battle Team's forceful teamwork had caused the match to lose its suspense. Or perhaps it could be said that the match had no suspense to begin with. It was just a matter of time before the match ended. In Star Moon Battle Team's plan, if the White Phoenix Battle Team became arrogant and forcefully climbed the tower, they could use the defensive tower's output and the geographical advantage of the high ground to counterattack. They might even be able to turn the tables. However, the White Phoenix Battle Team was too steady. They didn't give them this opportunity at all. They only continued to destroy the outer strongholds and expand their advantage. In this kind of situation, if they stayed on the high ground and didn't leave, it would be equivalent to a slow death. After losing the outer 6 defensive towers and waiting for the White Phoenix Battle Team to take down the leader-level wild monsters, ancient units, such as the Black Dragon, Dragon Witch, or even the Roshan's Soul Stone, their home base would still be destroyed. They would lose even more miserably. We lost. The difference in strength is too obvious. The only survivor, Han Xinyue, looked at the White Phoenix Battle Team at enemies at the gate, and sighed softly. Originally, there was still some unwillingness in her heart. However, after seeing Bai Xiaowen from afar, Han Xinyue's unwillingness quickly dissipated. Losing to him didn't seem to be shameful. She wondered if she could add him as a friend after the match. It's just that he's a bit young. I'm already 26 this year. I heard that he's not even 20 yet. But it doesn't matter. A woman 3 years older would have a golden opportunity. At most, she could just hold a few more. It's just that it's a bit troublesome to drag on for a few more years before reaching the age of marriage. Should the wedding be Chinese or Western style? I heard that traveling for weddings is quite popular. Sigh, I don't know if the baby is more like me or him. Which primary school should he go to? Han Xinyue, who was already thinking of hugging her grandson, only woke up when she heard the explosion in her home base. However, waking up or not was the end result. Tower defense? Her teammates were all dead. She was an archer. Even if she was a hero, what was the use of her? Hence, when they saw Han Xinyue in a daze in the spring, her teammates didn't blame her. Instead, they blamed themselves. It's all because we're too weak. We couldn't protect our goddess and let her tremble in the spring alone. We deserve to die. On the commentary platform, in front of the big screen. Seeing the explosion in the Calamity Faction's home base, the two commentators sighed in unison. Although they were already mentally prepared, the difference in strength between the Star Moon Battle Team and the White Phoenix Battle Team was still obvious. Not to mention the fact that one of the 4 players in the jungle was killed instead. This could be explained by the fact that Li Shi was strong and had already experienced this kind of battle before. However, there was no way to explain the fact that one of them was killed by Han Su in the top lane. Later on, the second tower in the bottom lane was taken over by the White Phoenix Battle Team. This was no longer a strange thing. No matter what, they still had to smooth things over. Since they couldn't explain the difference between the two teams, they had to praise their opponents. From this match, it can be seen that the White Phoenix Battle Team's strength is at an overwhelming level. I'm afraid that no other team in the League 2 can face them head-on. The female commentator spoke first. Don't forget that the White Phoenix Battle Team is lacking people in this match. It's 4 against 5. The male commentator Uncle, I feel that the White Phoenix Battle Team has improved greatly after returning from the spiritual world. Li Shi's Shadowless Slash has probably reached level 10, right? It actually has such a strong effect that it can kill 4 players at once. She must have had some kind of fortuitous encounter in the spiritual world exploration, or even directly obtained a mutated skill. The female commentator, Han-Su's performance is also remarkable. He defended against the Star Moon Battle team's first wave of attacks in the top lane. In the previous information, Han-Su didn't have the ability to throw chains, nor did he have such a terrifying large-scale AoE like Spectre ship. This means that Han-Su has gained a lot from this spiritual world exploration and has received a large share of the team's profits. I have to say, it's really comfortable to have a group of thighs as teammates. Han-Su's current level is not much worse than a real hero-class tank. He's no longer the team's weak point. The female commentator expressed her agreement. With the large-scale AoE control skill Spectre ship, which was also known as Deep Sea Impact, Han-Su could have a place in any strong team in the league. Alright, the players from both teams have appeared. Next, we'll rest for 30 minutes before starting the second match. The two captains, please come to the stage first to draw the lots for the second match. Seeing that the players from both teams had returned to the lounge, the male commentator uncle didn't want to praise the White Phoenix battle team anymore and directly went to the next segment. The female commentator wanted more. She wanted to praise Bai Xiaowen again, about his decision-making ability and influence. After all, he was the captain. It would be inappropriate if she didn't praise him. Moreover, not every mid-laner could take care of the resources in the jungle. It was like one person could take on 2 or 3 roles. Soon, Bai Xiaowen and Han Xinyue went to the stage again. This time, Bai Xiaowen still didn't have a ban, and Han Xinyue still banned the champion mode. If she drew the champion mode, she wouldn't be able to fight. It was possible that she would be defeated by 5 players at once. The game mode was finally decided. It was still a team battle, true slaughter mode. The two commentators sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, they looked at Han Xinyue with a hint of sympathy. Chapter 1046. There was one thing that the two commentators did not point out for the sake of Team Star Moon's reputation. That was the Crystal Destruction mode. It was a competition system that leaned towards entertainment. The pace was slower than normal matches and was more friendly to weak teams. The reason was because of the existence of defense towers. Every attack dealt 300 points of fixed physical damage. They could not be parried or dodged, this was the main point. They could only rely on their HP and damage reduction to tank. No Awaken could ignore this. This was already close to the damage output of an Archer Lord. It was just that it lacked intelligent control and could not move. Strong teams could not recklessly push forward with 5 people at the beginning of the game. Without wild monsters as cannon fodder and providing buffs, pushing forward would easily create opportunities for the weak teams to counterattack. Directly attacking the long-range monsters would be more likely to explode. Simply put, strong teams had to operate and use the resources in the wild to expand their advantage. Then, they would find an opportunity to remove the opponent's defense towers and expand their strategic depth step by step. After compressing the opponent to a certain extent, they would go to the long-range monsters to collect soul stones. Finally, they would rush to the high ground in one go. This was the normal way to win. Of course, if the difference in strength was too great, there would be no problem with 5 heroes fighting against 5 elites. But that kind of competition would lack entertainment and excitement. Moreover, they would not be able to gain any competition experience. Han-Su's equipment set and Li Shi's awakening skills needed to be tested in actual combat against awakened players to show the strength of a unified team to the outside world. In addition, it was the first match after returning, so Bai Xiaowen chose to play it safe. But True Slaughter mode was different. In this mode, there was no protection from the defense towers. The defending team also had no advantage in terrain. The difference in strength between strong and weak teams would be infinitely magnified. The two commentators had sympathy in their eyes because of this. However, they saw that Han Xinyue's face did not have any depressed expression. Her eyes were even a little sparkling. This made the two commentators' buttholes tighten and their bodies tremble. Could it be that Team Star Moon had some trump cards? That was right. After all, they were a team that had obtained a lot of benefits from the spiritual world. Gang Hao had won 4 consecutive victories, thus, the 2 commentators had some hope for the second match. However, after 30 minutes, Team White Phoenix proved 1 point to the 2 commentators. All hope was fake. Mountain forest terrain. Qiao Rui's detection ability was the first to discover the Star Moon Battle Team's movements. Shi and Bai Xiaowen's dual mental shields completely overpowered the Star Moon Battle Team's mage, Gua Bailey's mental detection. They blocked the Star Moon Battle Team in a valley and launched a surprise attack. When the crisp sound of the bell rang out, the Spectre ship whizzed out and beautifully crashed into the 4 of them. The defeat of the Star Moon Battle Team was determined. Han Xinyue was the only one who managed to escape from his control. Facing Li Shui, who had the awakening skill, Invincible Slash, she had no chance to fight back. Assassins were the natural enemy of archers. Although Li Shui did not have the stealth ability of an assassin, he was more terrifying than an ordinary assassin in terms of multiple attacks and continuous high damage output. The Death Knight led the 3 Terror Knights and charged forward. With the airdrop, Fatty and Kits brought a group of skeleton underlings and blocked off Star Moon Team's escape route. It was clearly 4 against 5, but the Star Moon Battle Team seemed to be the ones being surrounded. The battle ended quickly. The tank guy, Liu Yan, was the last to fall, and a loud voice rang throughout the battlefield. Victorious side, White Phoenix Battle Team. In the MVP segment, the White Phoenix Battle Team voted unanimously for Han Su. During the official judging, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi both had outstanding performances and played a greater role. However, the officials had to consider the opinions of the winning team, so they chose to compromise in the end. The 4 members of the White Phoenix Battle Team appeared and bowed to the audience. On the big screen, Han Su's slightly dull picture was quickly enlarged and accompanied by the words MVP, which attracted a round of applause from the audience. In the eyes of the audience, Han Su's Spectre ship had been used beautifully in both rounds. In the first round, when he defended the tower and neutralized the attack, it was even more outstanding. It was reasonable for Han Su to be the MVP, so they were not stingy with their applause. The audience in Luzhou was still very cultured. Of course, it was also because the Star Moon Battle Team did not have a large fan base in the local area. If it were a local Luzhou battle team, it would be different. That was the glory of Luzhou-based city, so the audience would definitely support their own team. Old Han, what do you think? Bai Xiaowen smiled. Han Su smiled and did not speak. To him, it did not matter if he was the MVP or not. He also knew very well that this was the result of the team intentionally showing their strength. Otherwise, he would not have had the chance to perform. In short, the White Phoenix Battle Team was now too strong. In the regular season of the League 2, they were like cranes among chickens. The players of the 2 teams shook hands. Han Xinyue hesitated again and again, but still did not have the courage to add Bai Xiaowen as a friend online or ask for his contact information. They had lost both rounds too badly. I should still focus on exploring the spiritual world and increasing my strength. I can't be unable to walk just because he is good-looking. But he is too good-looking. Then I'll wait until I defeat him before adding him as a friend. The White Phoenix Battle Team returned home. However, the clean 2-0 result of 4 against 5 undoubtedly caused a lot of exclamations from the media. Very few people mention the word dark horse anymore. Some media had already used words like descending to describe the strength of the White Phoenix Battle Team. The executives of the major guilds saw it more clearly than the ordinary reporters. The Giant Gods Guild. Seeing the MVP Han Su, the guild leader Fu Yiping frowned and said, "This Han Su seems to be of an elite profession, right? How can he have such a strong big move? What he used is definitely not a conventional combat skill," Fu Hong said. I asked for the video of the live match and played it at 0.25 times the normal speed. I found that when Han Su used that ghost ship move, there were 3 different parts of his body that showed a different green light. It's just that it's relatively weak. If you don't look carefully, you won't see it. A set? It must be a set. The conference room was filled with exclamations. The White Phoenix battle team is really generous. They are even willing to give such a strong set. Bai Xiaowen is really a prodigal. This kind of set that directly gives a strong big move is very versatile. He can use it himself. If he really can't use it, he can give it to Li Shui. Give it to Han Su? Isn't he afraid that Han Su will change teams once his contract is up? A 200-pound fatty said. Fu Hong sneered and shook his head. He looked at this group of executives of the guilds who were doing nothing. You have underestimated Bai Xiaowen's structure and his ability. Do you think that the set on Han Su is the only set in the White Phoenix battle team? Fu Hong sighed softly. I discovered a long time ago that Bai Xiaowen's summon creatures also have 3 sets. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.